Grab the car keys, because we're hitting the road with the Roundtable as we fuel up for day one of the Fixed Ops Roundtable Route 66 road trip event. So buckle up, Buttercup. Riding shotgun is our host, Katrina Ness.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Katrina Ness from Northwood University. Put the pedal to the metal because the Fixed Ops Roundtable is hitting the road. Calling all passengers, roll down your windows and enjoy the ride as we pack the car full for day one of our Route 66 road trip event. No need for a map to interact with the chat. Simply navigate to the right side of your screen. Just be sure to select everyone and not just hosts and panelists. Drive your DeLorean towards the future of automotive retail with our first speaker, Steve Greenfield.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings and Steve Greenfield of Automotive Ventures. Ted, I am always excited when Steve Greenfield gets to share his insights with us.
And Sarah, I think it's particularly noteworthy this time around. Steve Greenfield, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Sarah, Ted, always nice to be here. Thanks for having me, and really excited to have some conversation today.
Great way to start off the new year, talking about all the things happening in the industry. Steve, a lot of things in the news, and this is going to be some kind of week at the end of the week, NADA, and all the things leading up to it and things happening in our industry.
Yeah, you guys couldn't have picked a better week, right? We get the inauguration later today, and then we've got NAD at the tail end of this week. So it'll be nonstop, and by the end of the week, there'll be a lot of sleep-deprived people in our industry.
Yes. Sarah, you and I have been hearing a lot about AI. It's come up in a lot of conversations, and it seems to be a very high interest right now, Sarah.
Ted, you are spot on. There's so many different conversations happening about AI. And Steve, we would love to get your opinion on it because there's a lot of debate about what the future of AI holds in the automotive industry. So what are you seeing on the horizon for us in 2025?
Well, yeah, good question, and you're absolutely right. And it's timely this week because I think we've got a lot of folks who will be descending into New Orleans for NADA, and they're going to get pitched a lot of different angles around AI from a lot of vendors on the show floor. So there's a lot going on, as you can imagine. A lot of early stage companies that we're seeing in terms of potential investment are really focused on AI and automation and automating phone calls, automating chat, automating emails and such. But the way I kind of look at it, and maybe this is a good framework for the dealers that are tuning in who are going to NAD this week, is really think of the progression of AI around three things. So very practically, phase one is going to help a dealer effectively get more productivity from their people. So call it a co-pilot, something that you can kind of envision a little application that persists on the upper right-hand corner of your screen with some easy buttons, right? So make things really easy for any employee to retrieve information on a consumer, to commit information back into the DMS or CRM, to pull service records or whatever it might be, to look at associated parts needed for this RO. Those little quick, easy, fast keys should make all of your employees, have 10 IQ points higher. They're going to be smarter. They're going to be faster. They're going to be more efficient. Phase 2 is going to be what I would call, so if we call that sort of a co-pilot phase, where you've got like AI is acting as a co-pilot alongside your employees, then phase 2 will be what I would call intelligent agents. And the agents, effectively, you can train and they'll get better, and then they'll act as like employees. So when you go home at night, Sarah, you could like tell your agent, hey, look, I want you to reach out to these 30 customers and see if you can warm them up. So when I come back in the morning, you can report back to me how well you've done on following up. And then we can tweak your approach. So when I go home the next night, you're a little bit more effective following up on consumer leads, et cetera. Answering phones 24/7, always consistently, always the right way, always in alignment with what the automakers want in terms of the brand consistency. So that should sort of replicate, productivity and be a force multiplier. So now we've gone from maybe in the co-pilot phase, employees being 10 or 20% more effective. Now we're talking about, employees being 3 times as effective because this little machine can work tirelessly 24/7 while, your employees are sleeping. And then phase 3, which is the one that is a little further out and may get a little bit more scary for folks, but should also, if you own stores, own dealerships, should be something that gets you excited. Which is when the agents get good enough, then you can stop, hiring new folks, right? So I don't think you're going to go through and fire everyone, but I do think that as people, there's attrition or retirees, et cetera, you're going to find that these agents are at least as productive, if not more productive than the humans doing the job. And at that point, you literally are looking at like doing more work with fewer humans. And all of those savings are going to flow through to the bottom line. So I would say practically, as folks go into NADA this week, think about phase 1 being a co-pilot, which really just augments the intelligence of your employees. Phase 2 being intelligent agents that really are a force multiplier and can work when your employees are sleeping. And then phase 3, and we'll get there eventually, is replacing humans with the automation, which for some folks will be scary and for a lot of folks will be really exciting.
Sarah, Brian Kramer was just with us and was extremely excited, and I couldn't believe the things he showed us. And it sounds almost exactly what Steve was just describing in phases 1 and 2. And it's here now, okay? And it's working, and it's amazing, okay, what it can do when turned on and given the right parameters.
No doubt. Brian, as you know, Ted, was one of the most progressive general managers out there. Before he went on to work for Accu-Trade and then Cars.com. But Brian really understands operations well and is the right person to be working with the software developers to being able to really effectively address what the needs are at the dealership.
Sarah, you and I were just at Bozard Ford Lincoln in St. Augustine last month for a Fixed Ops Roundtable event there. And what struck you in terms of the mobile operation and the growth in which it has expanded in the last couple of years and what they see ahead?
Ted, it was incredible to talk about all of the implications that mobile service has for not only the customer base, but also the employees. And Bozard is just such a testament to how incredible you can have that synergy between people and technology. And I think the biggest piece, Ted, that I took away from getting to see all that was going on at Bozard Ford Lincoln when we were there was how important the communication continues to be throughout that entire process. And Steve, I know that that's a big topic of conversation that we've had with you as well, has been really centered around, how do you take a dealership? There's so many different places, maybe phase 1, phase 2, and getting into phase 3 that a dealership is at today. But communication really plays a big role in the entire synergy of that success.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think, well, Ed is a unicorn in terms of operations. So amazing that you guys were able to get down and see his operation. But every time I hear him on the show, I learn a tremendous amount. And so people should definitely tune into Ed and read his content. But I think, Sarah, what you're saying is right. I think that I would put it into a few different buckets, right? One is just allowing employees to share and communicate seamlessly, to learn from one another. And then two would be the training aspect. And I think some of the applications out there are getting better with training, whether it's getting content into sort of TikTok-like short video snippets for employees to kind of peruse and browse throughout the day. But also I think that, AI is enabling role playing. So you can effectively set how intense, competitive you want your customer, and then you can practice away against an AI-powered customer, first being pretty mild, and then eventually turn the dial up and getting pretty aggressive to be able to do the role play. So your employees are going to be much more effective when they actually get on a Saturday morning in front of a customer and they have to face these objections. They've already practiced with and are prepared with AI and are very prepared to face any objection that they face with the consumer. So I think that we are entering this new, well, as you say, Ted, we're there now. I mean, you're going to be walking around, NADA later this week, the show floor, and you're going to see examples of this. But I think all of these things, if dealers are open-minded, can be helping employees immediately become better with the consumer, become more effective, and to your point, Sarah, be just better communicators within the organization, which means they're sharing best practices real time and getting smarter.
And Steve, I saw your 2025 predictions on LinkedIn, and one of the components that I'd love to unpack with you for a minute too was talking about the IPO market opening up. So how does what we're seeing with dealerships today and this technology and all of what you were describing, this role-playing environment where someone can really cut their teeth on the AI versus, making mistakes with an actual client, how does this all impact what we see happening this year?
Well, it's a great question, and you would think that trying to reconcile the innovation that's happening on the show floor at NADA to the health of the IPO market, that there wouldn't be any connection. But it's a very astute question, Sarah, because the truth is, for the last 3 years, the IPO market's been closed. You really haven't heard about any IPOs, and if you think back 5 years ago, the IPO market was very, very healthy. We'd see every single month big IPOs hitting the market. So what's happened is it means that a lot of the capital that's been waiting to get liquidity for shareholders hasn't happened. We haven't had a healthy IPO market where really big companies that have grown well could go out and return that capital back to shareholders, who can then redeploy them into earlier stage startups. So you can kind of think of it as a pipeline. And the end of the pipe has been clogged because we haven't had those final exits into the IPO market, which means you start getting that capital backed up. And then the early stage entrepreneurs who are there at NADA for the first time with a 10 by 10 booth have been in a very challenging fundraising environment, because if the end of the pipe isn't unclogged, then you aren't drawing through capital and getting that capital redeployed into early stage companies. So I think as the IPO market later this year, fingers crossed, opens up, I think you're going to see a lot more capital in general investing in earlier stage companies. And when there's more capital being invested, it draws more innovative early stage entrepreneurs into the fold to start innovating on behalf of dealers and these solutions. So I think that a healthy IPO market that we are likely to see this year is going to help everyone along the whole supply chain, but most relevantly, the very early stage entrepreneur who's going to have an easier time raising capital because there's going to be more redeployed into those early stage companies.
Wow. I know, Steve, you recently had a chance to travel internationally and take a look at another market, much smaller market on the other side of the world. Tell us a little bit about that, because it really got a lot of our attention. You going out there, and tell us what that was all about.
Yes, so I met the largest dealer group in Kazakhstan back in early September here in the US, and went out to see them with Brian Benstock and Chip Perry here early December, so about a month and a half ago now. And had a very interesting time, a really great time. They were very cordial hosts. But to put this in perspective, Kazakhstan has about 200,000 new cars sold a year and about 1 million used cars sold per year. And the thing that Ted, you and I have talked about before is you can see real time the disruptive nature of these Chinese automakers coming into the market. 3 years ago, market share for new cars by the Chinese was 0. This year, or last year, I should say, 2024, we just passed, 30% of all new cars were from Chinese automakers. And this year, 2025, it's expected to be 50%. So within 3 years, we've gone from 0% to half of the market, the new car market, being the Chinese automakers. And they're on a crazy trajectory. They're all over the streets. So you see a lot of brands driving around the streets that you don't recognize at all, and you have to Google. And when you go into these showrooms, the quality of the cars is like, any US car that you would see, or any Japanese or Korean automakers, and the prices are unbelievably cheap. So they're building now really, really good quality vehicles at a very low price point. And I don't mean just EVs. These are also gasoline powered vehicles, and have been very disruptive in this small auto market that has no domestic automakers to protect, and therefore they've not, like the US and Europe, raised tariffs. And it's been amazing to see. So I think, the Chinese are permeating many markets outside of the US. And I know for the time being, we've bought ourselves some time with tariffs, but we need to get back to really innovating in the automotive space, because, there's gonna be no stopping this Chinese momentum into these markets overseas. And it's inevitable that eventually we'll see Chinese brands in the US.
You mentioned when you were overseas, you mentioned Google. Anything stand out to you in terms of, what was available to you in terms of online and technology as you were a guest in that country for a short period of time?
No, it's amazing. It really felt, we were in Astana, one of the large cities there, and it really felt you could have been in sort of Western Europe, Western European countries. So very, very well developed. You do feel the ex-Soviet influence. They spun off from the USSR when it disbanded in 1990, 1991. So a relatively young, independent country, but very progressive. And some of the automotive technology hasn't yet developed there, right? You look at some things that we take for granted, like there isn't a Carfax, there isn't a Black Book or Kelley Blue Book yet. So it's a fairly open field in terms of opportunities to develop new solutions over there, given that we can look at the US and take elements of the US and bring them into that market.
Sarah, you referenced Steve's recent article talking about things that may occur in 2025 as he looks into his crystal ball. Steve, would you mind sharing some of those with us? Because I thought some of those are very, very fascinating.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about sort of the IPO market. So I think the IPO market will mean that we may see some really big brands finally become public. I speculated that you could see S&P Mobility spin off Carfax as a standalone public company. We're waiting to see what happens with JD Power this year. That they could become a public company. I even speculated, that Solera could be a public company as well. And then the M&A market, the mergers and acquisitions market, I think will be open for business and very aggressive this year. One, because of the IPO market being healthy, but also I think, if anything, this new Trump administration will be less focused on anything anti-competitive. So for this one, I had some fun. I speculated that we might see CDK and Reynolds merge, for example. I speculated that Volkswagen would ultimately acquire Rivian, that GM and Ford would merge, and that BYD, the preeminent Chinese automaker, would acquire Stellantis to get access to their 2,600 franchise locations in the US. So probably, I don't think my batting average on these is going to be particularly high, but I did want to provoke some thought this year and some discussion around some of these big deals that could be discussed behind the scenes, whether or not they ever get executed.
It's very interesting, Steve, and I'm sure there's going to be lots more developing. As you said, there's a lot of horizon for people to pay attention to in 2025. And I'm imagining, thinking of all of the opportunities that are coming, how would you suggest a dealer, if they have capital that they're thinking about investing, where would you suggest that they get started?
Yeah, so I'll start by saying, I'm convinced more than ever that the franchise dealer model is defensible and durable and will be around. So we know there are a lot of dealers that are still looking at expanding in terms of number of locations. And I think if you can get good stores in good locations at reasonable multiples, that's probably what dealers do best in terms of investing their capital. But I do sense, and I think where you're going, Sarah, is that more and more dealers have an appetite now to be investing directly into technology companies. Dealers have, in some cases, been frustrated that they've helped make these companies over 10 years, and they never really get to participate in the exits when the entrepreneurs ultimately sell them off to Cox or Reynolds or CDK or what have you. So I think that there's more of an appetite for directly investing within technology companies now. And I think more of the technology companies are cluing in and selling shares directly to dealers as well. And I would offer up, any of your viewers today that have an interest in investing directly in anything technology related, let me know. If you come across a company that's soliciting you, I'm happy to be a thought partner. Chances are, not only have we looked at them, but we know them very, very well. And we can hopefully be a resource to anybody on this call that has an interest in investing early, just to be a thought partner.
Steve, you must look at so many up and coming companies, and there's got to be a lot of due diligence on your behalf, just seeing what's out there and seeing how the market continues to change.
Yeah, I mean, so we're very lucky. All of the work that we put into building out this brand the last 4 years means we see on average in a month, 60 or 70 deals, and probably go deep on 10 of those, and end up investing in about one. So we've got a good track record here over the last 4 years now of investing in about 10 companies a year. But you can kind of think of it as a ratio of 100 to 1 in terms of the 100 companies that we look at to ultimately yield one investment. But as a result, Ted, yeah, it's a great point. I mean, there are a few deals in the space that we don't see. People know to come to us because we are investing early. So therefore, like I said, I mean, we're happy to be a good thought partner to anyone out there who is craving more information on a specific company, or maybe more importantly, when they're looking to potentially invest their own money. If you are, just give us a holler and we're happy to be a thought partner, because chances are we have spent some time with that company already.
What's the best way, Steve? AutomotiveVentures.com or Steve@AutomotiveVentures.com?
Yeah, the good thing is I've done a good job, cramming the first page of Google. So if you look up either Steve Greenfield or Automotive Ventures, I think I own all of the slots on each page on Google. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me at AutomotiveVentures.com. I'm not hard to track down, and don't be shy, please.
Sarah, great to have Steve with us. And Steve, congratulations again on all the success that you and Automotive Ventures are having. And what a great time to be in the retail automotive industry.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you at NAD, both of you at NAD this week.
Lots of fun ahead. Everybody, Steve Greenfield, Automotive Ventures. You can find him on the web, automotiveventures.com. His email is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Extremely active on social media and on LinkedIn. You can't miss him. Please reach out. And Steve, on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, Sarah and I, Happy New Year to you. And again, much continued success.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Sarah. We'll see you soon.
Steve Greenfield here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Welcome to the all-new Busy Car. Recalls made easy. What does your recall process look like today? Do you rely on the reactive mix of mailers, emails, and calls that your service advisors catch them as they come into the service drive? Tomorrow's proactive process looks much different. With automation leading the way via texts, a mix of live outreach, and advanced appointment scanning. Here's how the Busy Car process works. Step 1. Get the data directly from your manufacturer. Then integrate with your DMS and scheduling software. Add in a mix of Busy Car's own proprietary data along with AI-powered website scanning, and voila, it's on step 2. Now it's time to identify which VINs have open recalls on them and help you in 3 different categories. Consumers, fleet, and B2B, which consists of the other franchise and used car lots in your PMA. Slide on into step 3. Here comes the automation. Busy Car has a very robust, smart-driven texting platform that automatically helps reduce no-shows and give your customers their preferred method of communication. Now you're getting somewhere. Step 4 is all you. We schedule according to your preferences. You complete the job checking. Little to no effort on your part and guaranteed ROI on our part. Call or email to schedule your Busy Car demo today.
Our next step is a no-brainer. Take the next exit for Brian Kramer with Accu-Trade.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings and Brian Kramer, the EVP of Dealer Growth and Success at Cars Commerce and Accu-Trade. Brian, welcome to the segment today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Brian, what a way to start off the new year. Sarah, Brian's been involved with everything with appraisal tools. I know I want to ask him about that today, and I know you want to ask him as well about some of the artificial intelligence, the AI pieces that he's been putting together lately. So, Sarah, I can't think of any more exciting guest than Brian.
This is going to be such a fun conversation. I always learn something from Brian, Ted.
So, Brian, welcome. And recently, a couple weeks back, I believe it was on LinkedIn, you had a post, and it got my attention because it had a form from retail that I remember from way back when. I think it was new when it came out, and it was the vehicle appraisal form. Brian, what was the date on this, and what's the backstory on this?
So that form at the bottom, it came out in 1996. And it's crazy because that's not, I mean, it's an exception, but it's not uncommon for me to go around to dealerships and see that sort of thing, especially when, they're like in that situation, it was a really strong used car manager, the used car director that I've known for a long time, one of the best in the country. And he goes from one coast in North Carolina to the other coast in Los Angeles. And, he said, hey, I really need your help. When next time you're going to be out this way? And I said, actually, I'm going to be out there in like a week or 2. So when I get there, I said, anything you need me to prep for? He goes, no, this is not going to be like a normal meeting. Needs to be more like an intervention. And as I got there, I said, it can't be that bad, or how crazy, because everybody, in this business can be a little dramatic sometimes. Especially used car managers about appraisal values. But he said, well, I said, what, how are you appraising cars now? Like, what's the software you're using? He goes, we use this. And it was a pretty large, really large dealership. But they were only, let's say they're selling 250 new cars a month and they're selling 80 used. And I said, so do you think this is contributing to that? And of course he's already been there, done that. And he said, what do you think? And he said, I said, so are we going to talk about the service drive process? And he goes, you're trying to like land on Mars, and I'm just trying to get from here to the other side of town. So he went down, started blocking and tackling and just going back to the basics. But like, as we talk about all the time, I don't think it's really any different than so many other things that we do. If you look at F&I, everybody always goes back to they skipping the interview. Are they going through and they presenting 100% of the options 100% of the time to 100% of the customers? Are they then handling the same objection handling? Are they presenting everything in the menu the same way? Same thing on the drive. Whenever you see 60% one-line ROs, I mean, you know this way better than I do, but typically the symptom is you can look at it on the drive and see exactly why that is, because the customer's putting their car out there. Nobody's turning the wheel, popping the hood, pulling up the wiper blades, testing the battery, and letting the customer be a part of that experience. And it's very similar in my mind to going through a doctor's office, and the doctor's very knowledgeable and they know what to do. But if you say I got a pain in my ankle, and they say I'm pretty sure what it is, here, let's do this. I can get you into surgery in probably 2.5 hours. I know a guy back there, but we got to do this quick. And their brain can't catch up to make a decision because you haven't done an X-ray, you haven't gone through the show with a stethoscope, blood pressure, all these things. It's a process that the client knows at the end. They go, hey, before I tell you to get surgery, let's do a double check and get a second opinion just to make sure I'm not selling you, getting you to do something you don't need. So let's get a third party opinion, because they don't want to trust. Doctors and attorneys are the best closers there are, and they want to close that customer down. And when you don't do a proper MPI walk around, then an MPI with the tech, those two go hand in hand. If you don't do the same F&I process and you don't do an active appraisal with the customer present, and you're using a sheet like that, not only can you not retarget the customers after the fact with digital marketing and all the other things that come back into, and so this better than anybody, to capture that back on the backside, you can't follow up with somebody you don't have PII on. So you lose all that data. The most valuable resource that a dealer has is their data. And by doing those things with paper, you're losing all of that in the future marketing for it. So and I know that I'm probably on the other end of the spectrum in terms of trying to push the envelope forward, but I don't think that dealers know enough on how much it's costing them, not just from the, it's not killing us, but it is. It's costing them their retention, their loyalty, the customers coming back, because you're not able to do all the marketing, or you're paying 5 times more for marketing than you should because you're not doing retargeting. You're trying to go capture new customers on display ads and things like that. It's just very inefficient. And it's not that one thing. It's not just technology or trying to use different software. It's how the ecosystem all comes together for sales and for service. And I just think that it's a huge miss. That dealership, they're taking in whatever it was, 20% of the cars they sold had a trade. And so what are they doing? They're buying it, so you've seen this party. They're all going to the auction. Hey, we got to supplement it. So let's buy the other 50% at the auction. We're going to pay way too much. We're not going to make any money on it, but maybe we can get, some service gross and we can get a trade. But then when the car comes in, that's typically the one they say, no, I paid way too much. I can't do that to this car. And now they're battling with the service director or the internal advisor, or however that works. And it's just a daisy chain. It all starts off with just not adapting and not doing that in a digital way. Everybody thinks it's easier because they're shortcutting, but it costs them. That dealership tripled the amount of trades that they were in 90 days they were taking in. So of course, what happens? The used car departmental gross more than doubles that quickly, just by one thing. And then the salespeople all said, after how many years, wow, I don't know why we weren't doing it this way the whole time. Even though they were pushing back on day one, it's natural. So that's the change management parable, I would say, from that lesson. It's odd that you brought up that photo, but that one leaves a mark in my mind.
Brian, it's not uncommon that dealerships are stuck in the process of 20 years ago. I'm thinking back to the story you just told, and I remember the phrase being told, prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. Okay. And so often we try to prescribe, with a little bit too early in the process.
No, that's a brilliant saying. And I see that all the time too, where somebody will say, I need more money for the trade. Well, does it have this? I think so. Well, and the used car manager is risk averse because they didn't go out there and scan it with an OBD. So they don't know, maybe there's the last one had a catalytic converter issue and that cost me $4,000. I don't think let me hold back on this trade a little bit. Or, what, I didn't go around that as well as I should have. Maybe the window regulator, the power lumbar on the passenger seat, all that little stuff that paper cuts you to death, the TPMS sensors are what I see as the number one cost and the number one point of friction that I don't think enough people talk about between sales and service on the internal side is a little bit on the recon, and that's an issue, but the bigger issue is the cost of the recon. So the used car manager, as they're appraising the car, or worse, the new car manager, as they're appraising the car, is taking a the 4 tires, and they're saying, well, those are $200 a piece because that's what they've always deducted for tires. But now these days, especially on EVs or really anything, 19-inch, 20-inch, 21-inch tires are $400, $500, or $600 a piece, plus mountain balance, plus TPMS sensors, plus the calibration on ADAS. Windshields, used to be $600 to $700 up until 2021 or 20, and now anything newer than that, you're talking $1,400 to, I saw one the other day for $4,700 on a Range Rover, and Mercedes-Benz are like that too, and that's just normal. But nobody's deducting for that. So then what happens? Service manager says, hey, we need to do this and this and this. No, I'm just going to take it to the auction. And now they don't have the trade. And now what do? They go and buy another car at the auction, which is there for the same reason.
And Brian, I imagine, just thinking about that form, I remember using that back in 2009 myself, and that created a lot of friction in that entire experience with the customer. There was all of this tension, that going back and forth, and the time savings. And what's really interesting, and we talked about this at the last roundtable, but what's really interesting is if you look at what customers are saying to each other on platforms like Facebook community groups or Reddit or any of these forums where they can collaborate amongst themselves, customers are dropping names like Carvana when customers are asking, where can I get a quick value for my trade? How do I find out how much my car is worth? So share with us a little bit. I mean, what is kind of the apprehension for a dealer that's, let's say, using that paper today? What is the apprehension between going to something that the customer is actively seeking?
That's a powerful question. That's the question really that I think every dealer should ask themselves. And I don't think enough of them go deep enough into that question to realize the why behind the what and the symptom behind the diagnosis, to use Ted's analogy, but the prescription. What I find is this. I find that nobody likes change, and the pain of the change is typically, they think about the pain of what it's going to be to get everybody on board, sell the team. They don't know, most people in dealerships, Ted, your friend John Malashenko is the one who taught me change management, and I didn't know what that meant, and he taught me with a lot of clarity on that, and I was resistant to change, and then I became a change agent. But if you don't know how to manage change and get buy-in, and there's a process for that too. So if you're not adept at doing that with your staff and getting not just people that work for you, but people that work as a peer alongside you, up, across, different departments, you have to get total departmental buy-in. If not, it's going to come off the rails. So a lot of people think, well, this is just going to be flavor of the week, or it's going to be something like that. But the problem, I think, is more systemic, and you can apply this to almost any department in a dealership with that question. But what I see is a lack of confidence. So if you think about CarMax, you think about Carvana. 100% of the customers that go to CarMax are logged in the CRM. 100% of them get an appraisal, just like we said with F&I just now, right? 100% get presented, 100% get appraised, 100% of them are active with the customer. That's the process, right? So they get to experience it with them, like a great service drive walk around. It's not done after the fact once it's in the quick service lane. It's done with the customer so they can see. And they can see the tread, they can see the red on the tire gauge, and all those things that are part of the show is what they're paying for, right? And letting them immerse themselves. And also, I'm preaching to the choir, but what's going to be set up for the next service visit, that it's yellow. Hey, you don't have to do this right now, which is like giving them back money mentally, but you will have to do that the next time. So we won't deal with that today. But what I find to land this plane, Sarah, is that the dealers that don't want to do that are not confident that their staff is going to do an active appraisal. So they hold back and they're risk averse, and they don't want to be that precise because then they're going to have to hold to the number, and they want to leave themselves a lot of wiggle room so that they can have a margin of error because their processes are not tight.
Just to pivot a little bit, Brian, artificial intelligence, AI. We were having a conversation in the green room with Sarah before we got started. Sarah, you and I did a recent Fixed Ops Roundtable panel, and we talked about AI. And I can't believe how the room lit up, okay, with so many comments and so much feedback on AI. And Brian, you've had a hand in this lately. Talk to us about some of the things that you've been working on, because I think it's fascinating how it applies.
Well, I'll tell you what I just experienced a few weeks ago. And it was when I first started delving into this, and this is just like your fixed ops roundtable. I've got a group with Wendell Hardy and Clint Fortier, are the admins for it, called Used Car Managers, and it's just used car managers in the group. So I had a hard time sleeping the night before. So I'm sitting there playing around with it, asking it different questions. And I'm like, I wonder if I can crack this thing and figure out Facebook marketing. What's the ideal thing to merchandise used vehicles? What's the ideal way to optimize everything? Is it the same for service as it is for sales? And trying to figure out if we can evolve our products at Cars Commerce based on what that feedback is. And right now, it's all open source. So most of these Facebook groups have an AI chatbot you can build within there, which searches all the data. Like in our case, it's 6 years of conversations that they can reference it, referencing what are the top 5 most controversial topics, get the most reaction, the most comments. And number 1 was Carvana and their values and how they appraise cars, and number 2 was auction condition reports, and number 3 was availability of vehicles at the auction. Number 4 was service drive acquisition. But then I said to it, so can you build me a content calendar of what I should, based on this data, what should I be creating? What should it look like? Who should the audience be? And what's the best way? Should I pay for it on Facebook? Is there another way to optimize this? It gave me 3 other groups that I should be posting in. And it said, you need to invite these other influencers. And this was like in the morning. It said, would you like me to start a group chat right now? And we'll, collaborate, and we'll get everybody on board. And, I'm showing that these people are the most active. And it was Tommy Gibbs, Adam Aarons, Wendell Hardy, and, the list of everybody. And as we're, Brad Wise at Furman Chevrolet. And as we're going through this, I'm watching this conversation as it's interacting with everybody. And I had to teach it and train it the night before that I wanted it to be witty. I wanted it to be human, more personal. I didn't want it to be formal. And I said, you need to interact with everybody and you have to tell the AI chatbot, you're a this. So like, if you want to get legal advice, you need to say, you're a lawyer. How do I handle this? But it'll break down every statute. There's disclaimers on it. But in that case, I said, you're a dealership consultant and a marketing expert. So based on that, behave that way. So, and then it just took off, and it's interacting with everyone. And I said, be ultra specific and create ultra customization based on their comments, their bios, their profiles for the last 6 years. So it's having all, and it has to download it and ingest it. And it's not, does all that stuff, but then it'll go to, Brad, 2 years ago, you mentioned this and you were struggling with this, but then it's, it looks like based on recent posts that now you're breaking record month after month after month. What can the rest of the group learn from that? And then it's pulling in with, it's actually, having like a comedy show with Adam Aarons as they're both, like making fun of each other like a human being. It was fascinating. They're in the AI tools picking up what they're saying and following up, and then it's pinging other people from within the group on Messenger and doing all these things that it just took off and had a mind of its own, which is somewhat scary in a way. But I looked at it as it kept on taking off, and this is obviously a much longer conversation, probably a whole show. It ended up, here's the data. And this is a 13,000 member group that's pretty, high, 56% engagement. And this is the results from that day. That morning, it built a mastermind session, is what he called it. And he pulled in all these people that he considered a mastermind, gave them different badges, upgraded their status. This is the AI, I say him. Upgraded all their badges. I'm going to make them an expert. I'm going to do this. Do you approve? And this was the tech expert. This one's the process expert. And then it also said you should update your profile. And I don't know if it's the right thing to do or not. It said, give me access to your LinkedIn thing as a admin and your Twitter. And I've already made these recommendations. Do you want me to change your Instagram bio and your Facebook bio to be optimized for SEO and search because it's not optimized the right way, which I didn't know. And obviously it knows how Facebook works. Then it did the same thing for me on Twitter and literally wrote everything, rewrote my bio, changed my title without me doing anything, just by talking to it. But 932% is what the lift above average daily activity levels were that morning. Breaking down the increase, messages exchanged up 851%, participant responses up 922%, positive sentiment rate up 250. Already high average sentiment boosted further for competitive group. Session duration engagement up 1,200%. The average engagement time increased from 12 minutes to 2 hours. So the average daily activity utterly eclipsed any other day in history. And so here's my takeaway from this. As I'm thinking about that, and I'll kind of put a pin in it because I won't go too deep in terms of proprietary strategy, but I'm realizing that I just 900x'd my follow-up with that much more engagement, that much longer session duration, because it's taking all of this stuff and it's all over our website and in our content stuff and the conversations of what it's learned over the 6 years in our Facebook group, assimilates all that stuff and just has a conversation with somebody based on all that knowledge. And you have some pretty low attention span general managers that are tough to keep engaged, that are on there for half an hour. A few of them were on there for 2 hours. And I've talked to them since, and they're like, I don't even know how to even describe what that was. And it just approached them cold. So imagine what that could do for win-back campaigns. Customers that haven't been in, to customize based on their data set, what's going on with them, cross-reference it with the customer data profile, and be able to have a conversation like that. That happened, right? It's not like a myth or a fairy tale. It was happened, it was quantifiable. So then I'm asking it, so what's next? And it's making recommendations and said, here's the media plan. I would do it month by month. So you'll be seeing the content library, over the coming months based on that recommendation, because it built out a whole custom profile. And it doesn't have to be Facebook, but it's kind of like, I look at it like PowerPoint, right? PowerPoint, when it came out, it was like, oh, and now it's even worse. But I look at it as there's a couple key things I want to mention, and naturally things are going to go off track. So I don't have to park that stuff in my brain. I know I've got it on a slide as a reference point, so I don't have to memorize everything. It's an assistant. And I think AI is like that times 10,000, to where you don't have to remember all these things or even know these things. You just have to know how to connect and get people connected. And I really, it was a ton of fun. If you ask any of the people that participated, it was a wild ride.
Brian, that's got to be one of the most fascinating pieces on the Fixed Ops Roundtable that I can remember, at any time. And Sarah, I think you and I have our marching orders, on some things we're going to need to implement.
Oh, absolutely. Brian, I'm going to be picking your brain after this, because this is incredible.
It was wild. I experienced it, and I still can't believe it. And it's actually already scheduled future mastermind groups for us. It does the invites. It already put it into their calendars. It did the calendar event in Facebook. And so, would you like me to do this? It's just, yes, sounds good. Yep. I mean, it's mind blowing.
Brian, that's incredible. Sarah, I'm without words.
Well, Brian, I mean, all of this advice and these takeaways, it's incredible. And I know we'll unpack even more of it on a future segment with you too. In the meantime, if a dealer wants to learn more and get started, how do they go about contacting you? What are the best next steps?
Anybody can email me at bkramer@cars.com. You can get on our website, which is down on the ticker below at www.carscommerce.inc. INC. You can get on cars.com, Accu-Trade.com, dealerinspire.com. On the Cars Commerce site, it has all of our channels, our media services, and Credit IQ, which is our decentralized finance platform. So how it all comes together, and there's a lot of great information. And you can actually book an NADA demo, which I highly encourage everybody to do. We're going to be doing live podcasts and presentations, but I would absolutely click on the bottom of that and reserve a time slot to make sure you're there to our cocktail hour.
Brian Kramer, constantly elevating our game. So Brian, thank you. And congratulations to you and Cars Commerce and Accu-Trade on all the success that you're having right now.
I think it's an exciting time for all of us. It's the most exciting time ever in the history of the world, and especially the automotive industry, to be in it.
All right. More to come, everybody. Brian Kramer with us here today from Cars Commerce and Accu-Trade, here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
I'm out here today appraising and buying cars from total strangers using just two things: our Accu-Trade mobile app and our Bluetooth OBD2 scanner. That's all we need in order to give them a 100% instant offer guaranteed by Accu-Trade. So let's tell Maeve what her vehicle is worth and what we're willing to write you a check for.
Let's do it. No way!
Right?
No! I might want my check.
Okay, we can. That's all it takes.
We are better car people. Every missed lead is a missed deal. We'll show you how to connect with modern customers.
We're calling the right customers with the right message at the right time. And it's funny, if you call them, they will respond.
Better Car People Sales BDC delivers reactive lead management, proactive campaigns, and long-term engagement.
Welcome back. My name is Brooke. What can I do for you today?
I want to bring my car in.
Sure, one moment.
It has electrical problems.
Let me get that appointment booked for you.
Brooke lets you focus on service lane customers.
Thanks for calling. Have a great day.
I was able to purchase a store in White Plains, and that store has gone from 200th place in the United States of America to now the 33rd place in the United States of America.
Better Car People can give you the tools, the resources, and the confidence to hit your team's performance goals. Supercharge your sales process with Better Car People Sales BDC solutions. Connect with us today.
Lyft Concierge's Courtesy Ride platform makes it easy to send reliable, affordable rides to the people who matter to your organization, even if they don't have the Lyft app. Here's how it works. To start a new ride, log in on your desktop or mobile device and click Request. Then, fill out your rider's info. You'll see the ride's price and distance up front. Need to message the driver? Add a note here. Send the ride right away, schedule it for later, or send a flexible ride that riders can request on their own. Choose the ride type that fits your rider's needs, such as luxury and extra seat options. And voila, your ride request is on the way. Once a nearby driver accepts the ride, your rider will receive a text message with everything they need to know for a smooth pickup. If your rider doesn't have a mobile phone, they'll receive an automated call to their landline with all the details. From your dashboard, you can track and monitor active and upcoming rides and support your riders. With Lyft Concierge, you can take better care of your people, simplify transportation management, and drive your organization forward. Log in to send a ride with Lyft Concierge.
Bozard Ford Lincoln recognizes that our team members are their greatest strength. Get ready to win from within.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Katrina Ness at Bozard Ford Lincoln. And this panel, Ed Roberts is here with us as well and his entire team. Katrina, it has been such a pleasure getting to meet everybody and see all of the amazing things at Bozard.
Yes, through this event, we've got to meet a great group of people as well as learn about the culture here at Bozard. So we're so excited to learn more about it in this panel as well.
Well, everybody, Ed, you don't need an introduction, but I would love to get everybody to go down the line, introduce themselves, and say what they do here at Bozard.
I'm Ed Roberts. I'm COO here at Bozard Ford Lincoln.
I'm Cameron Brown, and I work in the parts department in the mobile fleet.
I'm Jason Davis. I work for parts department for a mobile fleet.
I'm Herb Mast, and I'm the Chief Alignment Officer.
I'm Dave Stolby, and I'm the e-commerce sales director.
Wow, so you guys are from all across the departments of the dealership. So as a whole, how does Bozard Ford Lincoln cultivate a win from within culture here? And how does that empower employees at all different levels?
Well, truly, that our most powerful asset, or our best asset, is our people. And when we give them the opportunity to become the best versions of themselves, then we all win. And when we was developing our tagline for Bozard University, we had a focus group that was none other than Cam says, well, we call it Win From Within, as we was trying to figure out what's going to be our tagline. And he said it very, low and under his voice, like it won't be this, but here's one. And I mean, it says it all. It's win from within, and that's what we do. We win with our people.
Yeah. So Cam, what made you come up with that slogan, and what was going on in your mind that made you think of that? And what does it mean to you?
Well, I think it's because they always want to promote from within, and instead of, for most companies, if they like hire from the outside, and then it helps build the culture where it's okay. So sorry, I get a little nervous. So so like promoting from let's say if you start at the bottom, then you can work your way up to the top, and it just is it's a good way to have it done.
We continue to move forward.
Yeah. Continue to move forward. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. I would say the win within, from within, it honestly starts from the very top of the dealership, and it goes down to the directors, to the management, to the team leads, all the way down to the entry level positions. Not only do they like provide us, but they encourage us to be part of Bozard University, which puts us through some leadership classes and teach us about building a culture that keeps a positive environment around us. And I think that really helps a lot.
Yeah, of course.
Herb? So I spend a lot of time on leadership, and for most people it's about motivation, and the question is what motivates an individual. And what you learn is there's a lot of extrinsic motivators, how we're paid, how we're disciplined and those kinds of things. But winning from within is about understanding the intrinsic, the internal things that motivate people, and autonomy, mastery, and a sense of purpose. And this whole idea of mastery and how do I become better? And so how do we help motivate our people? How do we help them to win? How do we help them understand what they want to accomplish in life and then align together for our mutual purpose?
That's awesome. And when your employees are individually winning, the organization as a whole is. And customers see that as well. That's
Correct.
awesome.
That kind of goes right into how we manage in sales, which is we've got a three-prong attack. We want to motivate, we want to educate, and then we want to celebrate. And with that doesn't always necessarily have to be something that you hang up. It doesn't have to be a big banner. It could just be winning the day or winning the phone call or winning that conversation and helping a client get better, helping one of your other coworkers get better. So it starts from the day that they onboard. We have a great onboarding process here at Bozard Ford. We will continue it with our BTOP Club and our Leadership Academy.
Well, the win from within culture is really evident when you go to any department here at Bozard Ford Lincoln. But I'd love to hear a little bit more from you individually about the role that mentorship has really had, in the development of your leadership and being able, to really grow within this organization. So Dave, I'll start with you. What roles do leadership and mentorship play in personal and professional growth?
Quite a bit, to be honest with you. I think that particularly what we have here available to us in Bozard, not just with an on-site coach, an alignment director, if you will. We also have individual mentors that will hold each other accountable. I've got a great relationship with somebody in service that I would consider to be in my mentor cabinet, if you will, that holds each other accountable for maybe when you go below the line or maybe when you need to be a little bit more above the line. And those interdepartmental relationships in a dealership, over my 20 years, I haven't found that common. We do that here very well.
Herb, I know you threw out a very, very fancy title that has, I'm sure, explain to, how does your role really help in that personal growth and leadership?
So there's a great quote from a guy named Charles Lauer that says, great leaders don't force people to follow, they invite them on a journey. And the question is, what journey does the individual want to play? And how do we find the opportunity for that person to fill a role that aligns perfectly with them? And so mentorship, one of the things we're working on more and more, and we haven't perfected it yet, but is this idea of one-on-ones. One of the greatest opportunities in any team is to focus on developing people, and that only happens in a one-on-one scenario. You can't do that in group settings. So we invest an incredible amount of time, probably 50% of my week is spent in one-on-ones with individuals and hearing what's up on their minds and helping to develop them.
And Herb, I imagine that all of them think and see you as an amazing mentor in that aspect, that you're taking the time.
Jason, what do you think about mentorship and how it helps build others up? And
It immensely has affected my life, not only professionally but personally. Herb has been a big part of it, and so is this man Ed Roberts. They've really pushed me and made me view things differently and have a little bit of a different perspective on things. It's helped my personal life, my professional life, dealing with some employees, customers. I think it just trickles down. So I'm super thankful for the opportunity that we have here.
of course, Cameron or Ed, do you guys have anything to say about mentorship and how it builds others and your employees around you?
Yeah, it's really helpful when you know that people care and they just want to keep pushing you to do more and be your best that you can be and get the most out of every day for everything.
And we hear the saying that you don't know what you don't know. And that's with everybody. We don't know what we need to continue on that journey, the progression. And sometimes we have some areas that we want to improve on, but a lot of times we have to help them with the identification of the areas that would benefit them the most.
Yeah.
And then lead them down that journey. You can't force feed them. They have to want. And when you create those paths for them to chase after, as you lead them through those, as you lead them up to them, and then they embrace them and run with them, then you get success stories like you hear out here.
Wonderful. So from those individual success stories, how does that translate to customer satisfaction?
When you have a happy employee, it carries over to the happy customer. A lot of times we beat people over the head when they don't do something correctly, and then we tell them to go out and take care of a customer. Well, can they really do that when they're still licking their chops or pulling themselves back together? So you got to take care of people so they'll take care of the customers. And when you do that, customers feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 100% true because I've been working here going on almost 11 years. And during my interview process, I think I asked Ed, why would I want to come to Bozard and work? And this is exactly what he said is our focus is customer satisfaction, but more so importantly is our employee satisfaction. And it's held true. It's a wonderful place to work. And I'm grateful to be here. So
That's awesome. And we are such a customer-facing industry, so we see that as important.
yeah, when you have the positive attitude, it just trickles down from us to the customers. Very similar to what we talk about. There's an experience you can compare to your experience at Chick-fil-A versus McDonald's.
Yeah.
And most people would say you go to Chick-fil-A, you have a much more positive experience. And that's because they build a positive culture within the business. And that's what we're doing here, and it shows.
Yeah, for sure.
Our employees are basically our first customer.
Yeah.
We are selling to them Bozard for it and why it's a great place to work and why we should help our customers. And to get that buy-in, we have to offer them something different. So we are looking to be better than the Chick-fil-A in that reference. We are looking to set the standard, not follow the standard.
Yeah. And I think that's a great example because you truly do see the customer experience different as well as the employee experience different at an example of Chick-fil-A and an example of here. So
everybody, it has been such an honor to get to discuss with you all of the wonderful things that are happening at Bozard Ford Lincoln. And you all are just such shining examples of this win from within culture. Ed, I want to thank you too for giving us the opportunity for Katrina and I and Ted to all be here with you today at Bozard Ford Lincoln.
Thanks for being a part of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, on behalf of Ted Ains, Katrina Ness, and myself, stay tuned. We have more segments coming up next.
Go. Hey, how would you like to pay? Card, cash, or check?
I will do a card.
Okay, thank you very much. And will you sign right here?
Sure.
Okay, have a great day.
Great, thank you.
Introducing Dealer Pay Moves, Dealer Pay's new mobile application for dealerships on the move. It's really great because all you have to do is search for your repair order. It's then going to search whichever DMS that the dealership is connected to. As you can see, it's going to pull up that customer record in that open repair order. I'm simply going to select it. Now you've got all your customer details here, including the surcharge amount if it were to be applied with a credit card. I've got options to pay by credit debit. I can key enter the transaction. I can use a paper check or even report cash. I can even add transactions in here so I can do some real-time voids and refunds. Dealer Pay Moves is a great solution for your dealership to stay relevant and mobile.
We want to make it so that every automotive dealer can use AI natively and effectively to enhance the abilities of your employees to do their job. When we look at the ROI, one of the things that we know is that if you can communicate to a customer on a missed phone call in 15 minutes or less, that drives up profitability and customer satisfaction. So not only does our AI engage that customer on a missed phone call, it also creates a workflow for the employees to get back to the customers with predictive intelligence about what they need to provide to the customer to handle the situation as it arises.
Take a break from playing 20 questions and tune in to our next segment featuring Kaylee Felio.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Kaylee Felio, Don Andres, and of course, Ted Ings. We are discussing some exciting things in the industry today, Ted.
It's a new year, Sarah, and as you know, we've been talking a lot about parts lately. That's growing and growing, and of course, want to welcome Don Andres and Kaylee Felio. Congratulations to you on bringing parts to the forefront for retail automotive.
Yeah, thank you. It feels good to, actually see part like in the headlines. Normally it's service, so it's really cool. Thank you.
Parts was once the forgotten thing, Don. And now it's risen to the top. And Don, I want to pick your brain a little bit because you've run dealerships. You've also been fixed ops director for a number of large entities. How important is it to have a partner in your corner like a PartsEdge, especially going into the new year?
Well, I think that's everything because we're asking more now of our parts managers than we ever have, right? The service departments have figured out that if they want to increase their productivity, they've got to have an alignment with that parts department and that parts manager at such a high level. There's a lot of demands now on a parts manager. So from a general manager standpoint, I'm still going to walk in and say, tell me about my parts inventory. Tell me about my aged. Tell me about my special order parts. And yes, we want to get to everything, but the reality of it is we get caught up in actually trying to get through the day as a parts manager. So having a true partnership like PartsEdge, where in all honesty, they're putting in the forefront the most important things on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, so that I can pause and go, oh yeah, that's right. I got to work on that. Thank you. Good information. And now I can just go do it, right? Now I can just go reconcile or do what I need to do. So the idea of not having a partnership and just handling it yourself as a parts manager, I don't think that's going to be a good idea in 25.
Kaylee, sound pretty accurate?
Yeah, I feel like you're absolutely spot on. There's so many things I want to say with like, if you're talking to a parts manager, how much time it's saving them. And I've, telling them, I've always heard it's like an assistant. And then if you're talking to a GM or fixed ops director, it's like having that second set of eyes to really collaborate with the parts manager. And it just kind of brings everyone together to, it's the reality. Like if you're not using some sort of tool to be more efficient in 2025 and you're just doing all of it, what are we doing? There's so many more ways to be more efficient.
Yeah. Sarah, you and I were just at Bozard Ford Lincoln in St. Augustine last month, and we saw that enormous parts inventory that Ed's got down there at Bozard. And now we're learning about a lot of new things to make sure that parts from that inventory are delivered to the techs. I know they're working on some top secret stuff there, including AI to get the parts out. Sarah, your thoughts on the importance of parts and where we are right now at this time?
Well, Ted, we've been seeing and hearing all of these stories about how the customer is just right in the middle of this entire process. And really, the customer is what's driving all of the innovation that we're seeing with parts retailing. And so, dealerships have a front row seat to really have an opportunity to get into more opportunities with their existing customers than they ever have before. But Ted, like you were describing with Ed's store at Bozard Ford Lincoln, there's some innovations that they're doing to make things more efficient with how they're getting those parts to the technician to speed up that process, which then allows their technicians to maximize their time and effort. The customers are happier, and then orders are completed with more accuracy. So it's just an incredible time really in our industry to see all of these innovations that are coming front and center, but the customers are the ones that are driving it.
And Kaylee, efficiency in fixed operations and parts driving that. Who would have thought that?
I know, right? It's amazing how much it's changed, because when you look at the old school way of thinking as far as inventory management goes, it's, stockpiling inventory and, kind of a scarcity. Whereas now with technology and the way that we can look at data, you can really make more proactive decisions and actually stock to your market and your customers. So it's come such a long way.
Don, I know you're a big proponent on, not having the silos and having everything together, but really parts and service are becoming one, and if not already, and we're seeing that throughout the industry.
Yeah, I think more parts managers are paying their parts employees off of the service production side of it, how many hours that can be produced. And so they become a true partner in this situation. So, we all have this great DMS, right? And that information of exactly what that inventory level should look like and how it should move is there. But I have to tell you, who has time? Who has time to run those reports as easy as they may be routine-wise in your life? You say, well, no, I'm pretty used to doing that. No, you need to have a partnership where they're diving deep into real support of what it takes for you to stay completely active, where you're not missing anything in that parts department. Yeah, you're going to have your occasional failure that's got to be ordered, but I'm talking about that 80% of fast moving parts. We want that tuned right. If you have mobile service, we want those things on the truck. So this is the time to partner up with somebody that can give you that in a couple of clicks instead of digging through your DMS.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly mentioned mobile service too. That's becoming more and more apparent for some manufacturers more than others, but making it convenient, obviously, for the customer. And,
I love
having
the
the parts ready to go.
Absolutely. And I feel like, I've asked this before, and I mean, this could be a panel, but like, as far as mobile service goes, how are they managing that? I feel like it's almost like you have to manage that as a separate inventory, because the demand and how you're doing that type of business is going to be a little bit different than servicing your retail, your service drive. So I'm just curious how some of the mobile service driven dealerships are kind of organizing their parts and their inventories essentially to service.
Well, there's a lot of AI now starting to be involved in that, where they're able to decipher based on failures. So we have oil change and maintenance that we might do mobile service wise, but that's not what the demand is. Customers are now having issues with their vehicle programming and other components that are failing. And we want to send that truck out there, and AI is starting to figure out through math equations, what would be the most common parts to have in that truck for that run. It's impressive. It really is. And so, again, it's amazing how the customers are demanding it, like Sarah has said. And luckily, AI and things of that nature are now starting to be that great asset.
And from what I saw, and Sarah, you can chime in on this as well because you were right there. It looks like they're defining that process as we go, because they recently went from 10 or 12 or 15 mobile vans to 25 to 35 to, I think he was 45 to 50 when we were there last month. And Did you hear the number? I mean, I had heard, Kaylee, that they were going to go to 200 mobile vans, and then Jeff King and Ed were on a panel together, and Jeff King said, "Oh no, there are months where our customer satisfaction on mobile is 100%, 100%. We're looking at going to 300 mobile vans." Okay, so I mean, talk about the market. Sarah, I think they're learning as they go, and they're learning what to have on which vans and which ones do what. What did you see when you were there as well?
It was incredible to just witness the evolution of how they've grown their business. And when you think about where Bozard Ford Lincoln is located, it's St. Augustine, Florida. You know, it's a metro market, but there's a lot of, you know, smaller communities. There's a lot of retired people that are there. It's you know, there's a lot of different applications for this across the country when you think about rural or urban markets. But the big takeaway that I had from Ed's store was that as they look at this process, it's constantly being reevaluated for better efficiency, better communication, and they look at the quality of the employee too that's doing the work. So not only are you hiring a technician that can perform it, you're also hiring and training a technician that has to be able to speak about all of the repairs that they're doing to the customer at the location that they go to, and also provide that excellent customer service. So you're talking about an evolution, even not just in the parts business, not just in the service business, but then also in how the people are performing this work too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moving parts, no pun intended. And Kaylee, but no matter what, okay, it's changing and it's evolving, and dealers need to be up to date on what's happening. And I know PartsEdge helps dealers with that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a very exciting time. I just love the idea of meeting the consumer where they want to be met. And if you look at other businesses and models, they've totally changed the way that they meet their consumers and customers. And, you know, the dealerships that are shifting to that are the ones that are going to, you know, make it.
Yeah, no question about it. When we were at Bozard, Don, it was on the final day. We had a guest that came in, and he was a past president of Ford Motor Company. Okay, and we started talking to him on the panel about parts and service and mobile service, only to find out that he lives locally there, which is why he was able to come, and he has mobile service from Bozard done in his driveway. Okay,
I love it. That is spectacular. It really, really is. You know, at the end of the day, why would I go somewhere else to buy my next car when I have this good of a situation? You know, the big picture in all of this is that you have happy customers who will give Bozard first opportunity to sell them their next car, which is a big part of this equation, right? That keeps the machine going. So that, I mean, what a great message to send. Why would I go someplace else and hope to have as great of experience buying my next car someplace else instead of right at Bozard?
So Kaylee, what are some of the takeaways? I know you've got a lot of information available to dealers who have questions. You've got white papers, you've got information. What kind of access do dealers have to that, and how do they get more information on what you do at the PartsEdge?
Yeah, you can go to our website. We have a lot of information on there. By the time this is live, we should have a trend report out, which should go through press, and it's going to have a lot of key information to really look and how to look at your inventory and as an investment in the health of it, and really compare it to, you know, what it costs to not use a service like PartsEdge, basically. So I'm really excited to put that together because it's been a long time coming. And yeah, it's very exciting. Thank you.
You've got great stuff there. And Sarah, you know, we talked about this being the year of the parts department. Sarah, I really believe it is. 2025 is the year of the parts.
2025 is the year of the parts department. We've got a lot of exciting things coming up in this industry, and I'm looking forward to all the success.
Kelly, if our audience wants to learn more about PartsEdge, what's the best way to do that?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Kaylee Felio, or you can go to partsedge.com. That's the best place to go. Thank you.
All right, very good. We'll leave it there, everybody. It's a new year. Time to take a look at that parts inventory, look at efficiencies, how you can get better at what you do. PartsEdge is integral to doing that. They've got great experience, a great team, and no one better than Kaylee Felio to help you with that. So on behalf of the Roundtable, Don Andres, Sarah Vantine, and Kaylee Felio, thank you for your time today and all the great work you're doing in the industry.
Thank you.
The PartsEdge panel here today with us at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Obsessed with creating the perfect inventory? Us too. PartsEdge gives you the tools you need to outpace the competition and provide the highest level of service to your customers. PartsEdge is a powerful tool for parts managers to get the job done faster. Imagine what it was like when the impact wrench arrived. It made mechanics 3 times faster. Getting the job done without the latest technology makes it difficult to keep up. Besides all the other responsibilities you have, you work hard to have all the right parts you need when you need them. PartsEdge was designed by parts people for parts people to make that job a lot easier. PartsEdge saves you 4 to 6 hours every week and can increase your sales by 10 to 20% in just 12 months. Not bad for your bottom line. Take your obsession to perfection with PartsEdge. Call us today to find out what PartsEdge can do for you.
2025 is the year of the parts department, and we are excited to highlight some of the best in automotive. Join us live in New Orleans at the NADA Expo, where Revolution Parts is proud to host the prestigious Online Parts Excellence Awards, honoring the nation's top online parts sellers. This ceremony will be taking place Friday, January 24th at NADA and will be hosted by me, Sarah Vantine of the Fixed Ops Roundtable. During the event, we will unveil the winners in several categories, including top overall sales, top eBay sales, top Amazon sales, Parts Excellence Award, Rookie of the Year, Influencer of the Year, and the top sales in each brand category. Be sure to join us at booth 7451 to help us celebrate the excellence in the parts industry. See you all there.
Life is a highway. Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable Route 66 Road Trip event.
Take a quick pit stop with the AutoMax TechVengers panel.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. The AutoMax Recruiting and Training TechVengers panel is up with our leader, Joe Lockard, ready to moderate another dynamic panel of superstars. Joe, Happy New Year and welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Yeah, same to you, Ted. Happy New Year. Always great to be here. 3 weeks in, are we allowed to still say Happy New Year? I never know what's proper etiquette. We're good at 3
Yeah,
weeks.
I think we're still okay. And, look at this panel. Wow. You've assembled a lot of firepower.
Yeah.
Well, exciting topic. It ties into a lot of the things that the people on here have been talking about. The career path, Tully and Marco and Tom and Joe. I'm going to step out of the way and let you do your magic, and I'll see you on the other side.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Ted. All right. As usual, a lot to get to, but I do want to do some quick intros for anyone who's joining us for the first time and doesn't know any of these fine gentlemen. I'm going to start with you, Tully Williams. Tully Williams is the Fixed Ops Director for the Nilo Company in Sacramento, California. How are you, friend?
Thank you very much. Welcome, and looking forward to this great panel today.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. Shon Kingrey, you are next. How are you, my friend? Shon is VP of Fixed Operations for the Kaiser Automotive Group.
I'm great and sunny, beautiful, blissful Madison, Wisconsin.
Yes, we're in the thick of it now, right?
That's right.
It's the real stuff. All right. Well, thanks as always for being here. Up next is our resident technician to the stars, Marco Zwanenburg. Marco, how many years are we at here, Marco? 22?
No, keep going. We're nearing 30. So
really? How many?
Really? Dude, I started on contact points and syncing carburetors.
You
know,
look
the
good.
only
You must have
people
started when you
that
were
we
like
have was a Tully.
15, man. I'm surprised.
One of the few guys that remembers them.
Exactly. And I can still work on them.
Marco's currently auto technician with Naples Luxury Imports in Naples, Florida. Always a pleasure having you here, sir. Appreciate it.
Glad to be on board again, guys. Let's do this.
Absolutely. Up next, Tom Druzynski. Tom is Director of Service Operations for Westher Automotive Group in the Orchard Park area. How are you, my friend? Robert Migliaccio is next. Robert is Service Director for CMA Valley, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Stanton, Virginia. How are you, my friend?
Doing well, sir. Happy to be here. Looking forward to our conversations and mixing it up a little.
You bet. Thanks for being here. Up next is Mike Weldon. Mike Weldon is retired. He is living the life out there in Santa Rosa, California. He's former fixed ops director for the Hansel Auto Group. And as always, I appreciate you sticking with us and contributing to the panel, my friend.
Well, thank you. And I'm always excited getting together with these guys.
You bet. Absolutely.
Great subject matter always comes out of this.
Absolutely. Agreed. And last but certainly not least, our newest panelist, Don Andrus. Don is a longtime fixed ops director and now is on the consulting side as an owner and president of Auto SCT Consulting and Training. He just wrote a new book, Why Auto Service Departments Fail to Grow. Don, thanks again for being here, my friend.
Thanks for the invite, Joe. My favorite panel to be on. We always seem to be getting some great insight into the tech world.
Honored, my friend. So let me jump in here. I want to make sure everyone gets a chance to talk. We got a lot to talk about. So yeah, we are in fact the TechVengers panel, and as such, we spend the majority of our time discussing recruiting and retaining quality technicians. However, I think we're all well aware that technicians do not operate in a bubble, in isolation, although some probably would like to. But their success depends largely on the other various roles within the service department: porters, detailers, advisors, if you use a dispatcher, warranty admin, shop foreman, and certainly all the way up to service managers. So today we're going to discuss the importance of effectively recruiting and retaining high quality individuals within those roles, and kind of the trickle down effect that it can have on improving, technician efficiency and overall profitability within your service department. Marco, as often, I like to start with you, and I know this is an important topic for you because as great as a technician as you are, you're only as strong as your weakest link. I'll leave it pretty wide open here. Talk about all the positions. Talk about one that's really important to you. What is as far as the other roles within the service department, what's something that really impacts your efficiency as a technician?
As a technician, there's lots of things that impact me. I personally think that the entire dealership, to look at it from a technical standpoint, is a machine. We all need each other. We all need to have high quality components in there. We all need to stay well lubricated, like rested, etc., and energized, well taken care of to make it all happen. For examples, like I can work on these incredibly complicated cars nowadays, before magic that make even Mickey Mouse scratch his head. But the last thing the customer will see picking the car up is the porter. If the porter does a lousy job or has an attitude with his customer, or the customer just picks up that this porter just does not care, everything I did and everything that went in front of that is null and void. Because the last thing on this person's mind when they fill out the survey is the treatment of that porter. So it's a conglomeration of everybody that works there. They all have to be high caliber, well trained, well taken care of, respected. Yes, respected. And it all comes down again to what? Culture. Exactly. You have great culture, you will attract and retain everybody, every position in the dealership to a level where we can actually give this service to a level that the OEM says we have to do and we all want to do. My job, my business card is printed by everybody else in the dealership, as is my performance to them. So it all goes hand in hand. It's a really close-knit function, and we all have to do a better job in attaining that.
Yeah. Well, and we talk a lot on here about the technician being more forward facing and how we want to see more of that. And we want people to come and they want Marco to work on their car, right? And they only want Marco to work on their car. But as you mentioned, that whole thing falls apart. You know, it can fall apart at various levels with the service advisor, with the porters. If everyone's not on top of their game, then it doesn't matter how good a technician you are. It's that person's going somewhere else, and it's going to cost you money. It's going to cost the service department money as well. You know, in regard to recruiting, retaining these types of individuals, you know, culture, as you mentioned, is a big fit. And I think what's nice about some of these other positions, and you talk about advisor, talk about porter, is you can hire a little bit more specifically for culture. And yeah, we always want to be looking for culture and personality, but you know, at the technician level, there's a very defined skill set there. Whereas with someone who's starting out, and you know, I want to let you guys talk about career paths that you have within the dealership. But when you can start someone as a porter and really just hire for, hey, this is an exceptional human being, and then let them come in, show you who they are, add to the value of the dealership, add to the technician's profitability, and work their way up through, it's definitely going to make everyone's lives easier. Thanks, Marco. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Tully, I want to come to you next, my friend. I think I mentioned before, I just, because you're such a good closer, I often come to you last. So I want to come to you first here. What one position, we could talk about leadership. Again, this is a very open-ended topic, but if you could talk on kind of the interaction between hiring quality individuals and non-technician roles and how it impacts your technicians.
You know, Marco's spot on. It starts where if you have a tech shortage, this is where you need to start. Hiring techs is not where you're going to find technicians. You're going to find technicians in your service drive as porters. To me, that's where you start with a career path that shows a porter that might be 18, 19, 20, trying to figure out what he's going to do with his life, and realizes that a tech can make $200,000-$300,000 and do it. And like, oh, I like that pathway. Guess what? We will put it in writing and show him the path. Starting with porters is a great position. They have to be customer focused. If they're not, it ain't going to work. 2, they have to drive and not run into other cars. We're not bumper cars here. We all laugh. This happens every day. Yeah, we have to make sure that we're doing the job right. Can they take direction? And if they take direction well and do their job well and treat customers with respect and realize that we're in the repeat and referral business, next is we can put them as a shop assistant. They can be in the shop cleaning, helping, being mentored. And next thing you know, they become an hourly, a flat rate, possibly a foreman. But the goal is we show them a path when they're 18 and 19 and 20 years old to show them how they can make a career, get married, have babies, buy a house and a boat and a car, get massively in debt, and work for me for 50 years.
Thank you. If I can flip to the other end of the spectrum, and I want to follow up with Shon here in a second too. You know, both of you are fixed ops directors for, you know, relatively large dealership groups. Can you talk a little bit about the other end of the totem pole, the importance of the leadership role and having the right leader in place as far as how that's going to affect your technicians?
We believe that hiring outside leaders does not work. We want to hire inside leaders, right? We don't want to have a general manager that we hired from New York. No offense to anybody, right? We want to hire a general manager that has worked at the Nilo company for some time to know what kind of character they have. We run our stores. We're in the people business, right? We want to know that we have the family values, our core values that we believe in. Outside people do not know those values. They just believe in like hammer, kill, destroy. That is not what we want. So management is the same way. Now, when you look at a pathway for management, we do the same thing for our parts and service managers, our sales managers, our F&I, and then ultimately our GSMs to general managers. There are a career path. So they know that if a service writer wants to become a general manager, a service manager one day, and then ultimately maybe a GM one day. If a technician goes to become a foreman and wants to become a service manager, there is a pathway. Usually that doesn't happen because they don't want to, right? Yeah. Service writers is usually the path, but we have 2 people that started as car washers that are our service managers today. No kidding. We had one of our service writers today retire 40 years, and our parts manager is retiring at the end of the year, 48 years, right? And now that manager that has been going to take those place of our parts manager for 40 years has already worked for us for 6 months as a side-by-side manager. So this is not like the world's going to come to an end January 1st.
Sure.
So management is just as important as it is for your troops, is having great managers that believe that people are first. Remember, it's employee satisfaction before customer satisfaction.
Sure. Thanks, Tully. Appreciate it. And Shon, I do want to come to you next. And again, you are a fixed director for a decently large group. Is it kind of the same for you guys? Is a lot of, hey, let's show them a career path and promote from within. If and when you do have to go outside, what are some things that you do with the non-technician positions that are going to help, overall profitability in the shop?
Well, I think it also ties to the first question, Joe, is we can all go back to the basics, and I don't want to bore everybody with it. If you have a poor write-up, Marco doesn't stand a chance. Let's be honest. Marco can't fix what we're not telling him what's broken. That goes back to the basics. But you asked, what kind of manager, what kind of next step do you need? If anybody knows me at all, and again, we're there with Tully now. We're at 100. We're officially at 100 years this year. We've been around as a group, and I got to tell you, it is about culture. And again, I know it's overused and way beaten to death in this business, but it is. If you don't bleed the culture, then you're just not going to fit. All right. I've always said, and as Joe, you and I've spoken, and Ted and I've spoken, and obviously Tully and I have spoken off the record. The downside of a group of this size is we're like Tully. We have managers that have been here 48, 50 years. It's a huge plus, but there is a negative side to that too, because some of those 50-year employees don't want to train the people coming up because it's a threat. It's the opposite of a threat, by the way. I always want to have the number 2 sitting there ready to go. One thing that we're working on heavily, and Joe, you and I have spoke about this a lot when I first got here. The Kaiser Group this is not about the Kaiser Group, but we didn't have a bench. There was no bench. They've never needed a bench. Right. Well, it's very obvious when you have stores that grow. Tully and I had a very long conversation a week ago. For a good couple hours we've talked, where we have stores growing 30, 40, 50% year over year, and stores that are remaining dormant. Because some are drinking the Kool-Aid and some are not. All right. And part of that falls back into that same, you got either you have the culture or you don't, because you have the people that are stuck in the past, and you got to get past that. So, I don't think culture can be overused, underused. And again, it's okay if you don't want to be there. It's okay if it's not a good fit. Sometimes the square peg in the round hole, it may have been a square peg in a square hole to start, and the peg turned round, it just doesn't fit anymore.
Sure. And
sometimes you just got to look in the mirror and say, it's okay. It's okay to move on. It's okay to upgrade.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I just piggyback off of Shon? I think having a bench is so important.
Yes.
And we have assistant parts managers and assistant service managers in all of our stores. Now, it's not something we just give, but you have to earn it. But we have a Porsche store that has 2 service advisors and 1 service manager. Guess what we have? We have 1 service manager, 1 assistant service manager, and a service writer. That is so important. And when your service manager feel threatened, you have a serious problem at your store.
Amen, Tully.
They need to say, thank you for helping me out. Be successful. They all get paid.
To your point, Tully, your 48-year guy is retiring January, in January, February, whatever it is. You're not going to miss a beat because you've had somebody sitting there. You're not calling Joe at Sunday night on 911 saying, I'm in trouble. I need somebody Monday, and I don't care what it costs me. Guys, it doesn't work, because you're going to find the guy who, quite frankly, you didn't want in the first place.
Yeah. Well, and guys, I thanks, Shon. I appreciate it. We've had technician recruiting campaigns just completely crumble strictly because of the service manager. And we've talked about it on here before. Technicians know each other. They talk. They know who people are. They know reputations. And there's nothing I can do at that point when people flat out do not want to work for someone who they know is just not a true leader. So, hitting that one first, I think obviously is most important. Tom, I want to come to you. Again, you're a service director for a pretty large group up there. Obviously, it all trickles down from you, right? I mean, you have to trust your service managers to recruit and retain the right people across the board in the service department, but you got to have the right leaders in place. Can you talk a little bit about how you're sure that takes place and the things that they're looking for when they're hiring at the store level?
Yeah, for me, I think the key thing that we look for when we're putting together teams is engagement. You want those people that are going to take care of that business like it's their own. You want the people that are going to see the woman the older woman that's walking in, grab the door for her when they don't have to. person that's walking out in the parking lot and they see the trash on the ground, they're going to pick that up. You want everybody to care for that business just as much as you care for that business. And it starts again with the leader. We've got to be able to show that. Oddly enough, I can't tell you how many times I clean urinals in stores. It's something that nobody ever sees, but I do it every time I'm in there because that's not what I want people to see from our employees to our customers, other dealer executives that come through. That's not what we want. So we're constantly looking for people that have high levels of engagement. And I think that they make the best employees, and then they're the ones that are looking to go further and further in their career and are really going to give you the best effort.
Yeah, you actually clean urinals, huh? That is
all the time. I would like to.
No, that is impressive. I was not. That says a lot about you, sir. That's very cool. It really is. That's impressive.
I don't know how tall people are, which is weird. Like there's some very tall people out there apparently.
All right. On that note, thanks, Tom. I appreciate it. No joke. That says a lot about you as a leader. And you're right. I mean, look, guys. Let's be honest here. Nobody's dying to take their car in for service at a dealership, right? There's a lot of stigma and bad energy and reputation that we have to overcome just from being a dealership service department. So those little things matter. I mean, if you're holding the door for someone, if they go to the bathroom and it's a nice fresh urinal, you never know when someone's going to say, hey, this is somewhere I enjoy being. And of course that starts with your employees. Appreciate it, Tom. Robert, I'm coming to you, my friend. And I've spoke to your guys' culture a number of times. And, we see it out there. We see the culture that you instill and the way you form bonds and relationships with your employees. Is there something specific that you're looking for when you hire for maybe a more entry-level position, or even if it is for a writer, aside from, some experience, is there a skill set type of person that you guys are dead set on? You must have this when you hire.
First I want to say, collectively here, I don't know who else is in the 100-year mark, but that makes 300 centuries between these three auto groups, which is
crazy,
just phenomenal to hear in the automotive industry. So kudos to all the auto groups that are making it to that level and still running strong. But one of our key factors in our kind of moving lives forward situation is owners just care more. So for us, that is the aspect of CMA and what we look at. Everybody is an owner, so everybody as an owner cares more about what they do and what their functions are and their roles in the group. So with that, it makes it a little bit easier for us to kind of portray that, because we do that right off the bat when we're starting with everything. The big part of what we kind of look for in that entry level is just what everybody's been saying, is we're looking for somebody who really wants to kind of find their focus in growing and then deliver them that career path and help them develop into what they can be, because everybody has to start somewhere. I mean, I'm sure all of us have started similar backgrounds. I started off in the detail department and worked my way up through the fixed ops side. And as a lot of these guys, we've done the porter position, we've done that position. So it helps them have a better understanding and belief in what they're doing as they continue on through their career. So, I think it's huge, to Tully's point there, just to really set the tone with the career path, really make sure that you're setting it up from the gate, that they know exactly kind of where they're going, where they're headed, and ultimately sitting down and just reviewing that that's what they want to do too. Don't just push them in a direction that they don't want to be going as well. Make sure they are the right fit for the right position. Some of us with multiple stores, we have the ability to move people to other stores, other departments, and really kind of help them grow and see their potential in other aspects. But it's a unique position. Not every store has them. And I know we're probably talking for, we kept this about porters for the most part in a good cycle of what we're kind of looking at. And not every store may have a porter. Some do, some don't. But at that point, it just kind of trends down to the next person who's there. So as Marco said, who's that first person? Who's that first line of defense when the customer comes in the dealership? Do they have your culture? Do they have your spark, your desire to be at that store? Or are they just showing up every day for a paycheck? Because at the end of the day, you're just going to turn the customer off at that point then.
Yeah. Well, if we could talk a little bit more about what you just said, and Shon mentioned it before, the upfront, the writer, Do you guys hire specifically for people with writer experience, or is it kind of a little more on the subjective side, or of, because you're gonna in a lot of cases be the first point of contact with the customer, focus more on the customer service side and try to train up from there?
I think everybody I look for and everybody that I've always talked to, I mean, we always tend to fall back to the people business and looking for people who are people oriented at the end of the day. The whole process of reviewing the customer's information and what their needs are in their vehicle, we can teach that stuff, but you can't teach a person to be a good human being or just an energetic ball when they're out there in the lane and they're driving their desire to do that position and really help people. And quite frankly, when you talk about the advisor, you're talking probably solely the toughest position in the dealership for dealing with people in there. You have it from, they're dealing with the internal department, they're dealing with the technicians, they're dealing with the office, they're dealing with the customer base, they're dealing with every manager that comes through the door. So they get it on every single angle, and to have them come in, show up every day with a smile on their face and want to do their job. Yeah. It's all about supporting them and really keeping it going. And it does, it leads back to that advisor comes in, they're in a good mood. They're going to do a much better job in their write-up. They're going to give Marco a much better repair order. Marco's going to trust that they're going to be displaying and reviewing all the recommendations and services he's brought up to them. And they build that rapport with the customer base as well. So it does help. But if you have that negative stigma around you, it makes it a lot tougher. So
yeah, that's a tough role and very, very important. I'll be honest, just as a customer, when I go into a service department and I feel good and have an actual connection, hey, I'm your service advisor, first name basis, and you build that relationship with the service advisor, I'm going to come back there. I'm going to feel good about what they're doing behind the scenes. Now, like we said, we'd love to get to a point where the technician can be a little more forward facing. I think there's still room for that. But, by and large, the service advisor is kind of the face of the repair. Really important role. Thanks, Robert. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Mike Weldon, I'm going to come to you next. Obviously, you logged many, many years in the service department. We talked a lot about the mission statement at Hansel when you were running their stores. What is one thing, several things, one role? Just kind of run with things we've talked about. What's a really important role that is going to affect the technician, and how do you make sure you have the right person in that role?
I love developing people. Anybody that I engage with, I ask them the same thing. What's your 1 year, your 2 year, your 5 year plan? And that sets me on the right path to help that person achieve those goals. And then we cross interview with other key positions that, if it's a match, it's a match. If it's not a match, then we fully understand, we move on. But I hire with the intent to promote. I don't care what position that they come in. I got to tell you, I've got notches in my belt that I can say that a lot of people have accomplished their life goals based on the opportunities that we afforded them. They came in one position, and the next thing they go from being a receptionist to a service advisor or a porter. Since we're talking a lot about porters, they're now your lube technicians that become your apprentice technicians that become your journeyman technicians. Sure. And I got to tell you, if you run your business that way, because it is a people business, as Robert says, you will be successful. And when we talk about tech shortage, yeah, it's a pandemic out there, but it's the shops that do not cultivate and build those relationships. And until we all decide that we need to knuckle down and we need to work together and take care of the people that we've invested in, because they'll invest in you if you invest in them, then we're going to continue to struggle. So yeah. I think it's just, that's the fun part about this business. Everything else is mechanical. Fixing cars, Marco, fixing cars is part of the job, but if you didn't come to work and you weren't happy because the guy next to you guys didn't get along, you guys didn't have a relationship, even though you may not go down the same career path, it would make it difficult. Yeah. And we work really hard. I work really hard. And I've had to sit down with people and reassess and find out what the true path is. But that's the fun part about this business.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Agree 100%. And if someone's just punching the clock, and we see it again, it's it's why we're in business. There's a lot of turnover with technicians. You can throw as much money at them as you want. If somebody literally hates going to work every day and doesn't like the people around them, that's not going to last. That's going to end at some point. So you got to have everybody on the same page. Don, I want to come to you, and I'm again, really appreciate you being on the panel, because it's great having kind of the consulting point of view, because we're in a unique position to where we get to kind of spy on multiple service departments, and we see who's doing it right and who could use some improvement in you're going into service departments, training them, finding out what they need help with. Where's maybe one role outside of the technician where you think dealerships are coming up short and could spend a little more time on training, and it's very important to spend more time with these people and make them feel like they're an important part of the team?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. It's amazing. This panel, it just blows me away. I mean, the people that are going to listen to this are going to be able to see exactly what a successful service department runs like, right? I mean, everybody here values this idea of development. The problem that I run into is I go into stores that don't think that way. I go into stores, unfortunately, that they don't hire until they need somebody.
Sure.
Joe, if they could just have a conversation with you, if they could just reach out to you and say, what am I doing wrong in my hiring practices? It probably starts with your starting to look when you need somebody.
Right.
That service advisor leaves for whatever reason. Maybe it's because it's chaotic. Maybe it's because it's stressful, and there is a lack of structure in that service drive, lack of training, and they've left. But I can't tell you how many times you see service managers covering for a writer, covering for a valet or a porter, because they never thought ahead in trying to plot a course that allows them to always be in a position to come in every day and feel good and feel like everything's going to happen in a positive way. So it is a culture. There's no question it's a culture, but it does start with this idea of I'm always recruiting. I'm always having conversations. I'm always talking about it. And then definitely, if I'm not good at interviewing, if I'm a service manager that got promoted, maybe I was a technician, and now I'm being asked to interview for service advisors, I need help. I need training. I need to reach out to your company, Joe, and things of that nature, and talk about what are some things I should be asking in that interview to know that I'm hiring somebody that's going to fit our culture. I love what Mike said, where he said, hey, I passed that interviewer around to a number of people, that interviewee, for exactly that reason, right? I may not have a feel for everything, but I do want to talk in that interview about how incredibly important their individual role, whether it's a valet or whether it's a service advisor, whether it's a parts person, that this is a key part of it. We don't get this right, we now start to fail, and that rippling effect really is a big deal, right? So there's a lot of passion, I think, that has to go into setting up a team that not only is focused, but is always thinking forward, always thinking forward. So don't wait. Start recruiting now. Start looking at that valet and saying, what's your plans? Hiring service advisors well beyond what they thought the job was going to be, and explain what we do here and how we think completely different, and see how that reaction is. See if they don't want to work that hard. See if, in fact, they start to drop their shoulders down, or do they sit up and get a little excited and go, wow, this sounds like a great place to work. Okay, now I've got somebody I want to spend some time with. So I think that's a big part of it, is just this idea of taking the words from these gentlemen right now on the panel, this 100-year stores that have got it right for so long, and realize I probably need to fix that in 25. I probably absolutely need to start to create a career path. I love what Tully said. They have a career path right from the valet. I mean, there's a path laid out. Who does that? Well, the successful stores do.
Don, that was wonderful. Beautifully said. You hit on a few things that I want to follow up with. we talk about the career path, and the career path is important, forward thinking and here's where it could go. But you talked a lot about, during the interview, focusing on the present and getting them to understand just how important this role is that they're applying for. Forget the money, forget what they've done previously, forget where it could go. This is important. If you don't do this job right, then this happens, this happens, this happens. And look, maybe it's too much for them. It's too much pressure, but you put it out there. If it's not the right fit, it's not the right fit. And then you mentioned something at the very beginning that's huge that doesn't come up a lot. Asking for help, admitting when you're just not able to do something or possibly not in the right role. And I think that again comes back to culture. If you create an environment where people aren't just faking it till they make it, and they feel comfortable going to a coworker, to their boss and saying, hey, this is outside of my skill set, outside of my comfort zone. What's the best practice here? What can I do? That's big. It shows a lot of emotional intelligence. And when you're hiring that type of individual and then creating that type of environment, it makes it a lot easier, and things always run a lot smoother.
Hey, Joe, can I just top this all off? I think this is great. Here's the one thing that you have to remember. We have great paths. We have great people. But if we don't talk to them on a monthly basis, you're wasting your time. And I think that when you mandate performance reviews, and performance reviews are a positive event, not a negative event.
Yes.
Right? If you have these things, from the porters to the techs to the riders to whatever position, have them come in your office, fill a form out together, give hugs and kisses, tell them where they are on their pathway. Do they deserve a raise? They should never ask for a raise. We're going to give them a raise. Right. Small raises are better than big raises. Make sure you talk to your best asset at your store is your employees.
Yeah. To your point, Tully, you lose when they have to ask.
You're right. And one more quick thing I want to say about the hiring thing. And Joe, this is with the store that you're working with. On Friday of last week, we had a conversation with that store. Guys, if you're looking for a position 4 or 5 times in the same year, maybe it's not the position you're looking for. Maybe it's the manager you need to be looking at.
Yeah,
sometimes you, and I'm not trying to be that person tonight, but sometimes you got to look in the mirror and say, again, what did you say earlier, Joe? It's a small business. Technicians talk. Service writers talk too. And when you go out to recruit and they're like, listen, where's the store for? And as soon as you say it, they start to squirm in their chair, because that store has a reputation of burning through people. And it may not be a bad store, a bad manager. To Tully's point, I think Tully way underworks his service advisors. That's why I'm going to retire there, by the way, except for that darn tax rate. But anyway, whatever. But maybe you're asking too much of your advisors. Maybe you're pushing them too hard, and you're replacing them 4 or 5 times within a 12-month period, and that's not your culture. You're probably the problem, not them.
Yeah.
Well said.
Another nice part of being the third party, the vendor, is that we get a lot of feedback, and we pass that along to our clients. And you don't know what you don't know. I mean, there's not a lot of people that'll just come in during interview and say, yeah, your service manager's a jerk, I'm not going to work here. They'll sit through the interview and hear what they have to hear, but you need that feedback, right? And you need to find out what's actually going on, instead of just saying, well, it's them, it's not us, because usually it is you. So I appreciate you mentioning that.
Yeah, and Joe, that's, I think, the advantage. I know we're running out of time here, but I think that's the advantage your company has. Your company's the shuttle driver. Your company's the person that candidate can talk to, because seriously, because the customer will tell the shuttle driver everything. They're like the barber, all right? But then it's true. Hey, I interviewed with Tully, but the guy was really a jerk, and he's got a 90% tax rate. I mean, that just doesn't. Whoa, blue state.
Yeah, but here's the funny thing, though, guys. Like it has been mentioned a few times, I can dig up more dirt on your service department faster than I can do an MPI. So we talk, absolutely. We know more things about your service department than you do as a manager. Now, the question is, as a shuttle driver, how are you going to respond to that information? Absolutely. If you decide to go like this, go like, oh, you don't work here, you don't know, you can't know. I do know. If you do not want to listen, I don't want to work for you. And I will tell everybody that I know not to work for you.
Yeah. And it works both ways. You got to be up front, and we've had to have some hard conversations with service managers to be like, guys, this is what we're hearing, and that's okay. You know, from there, how do you fix it? How are you going to go out there? Hey, thank you for telling me that. Go back and tell them this. Say, we hear you. I understand. Here's the changes that we've made since that person was here, or since that incident, or whatever it may be. But yeah, you got to communicate on all levels.
That's what I love about
think
that you let everybody know where they stand so they can make the right choice and the right move.
I think a couple of panels ago, Tom mentioned this, and it really stuck with me. You've got to notice the employee doing positive things. You know, Tully just said it. You can't be dragging them in, and they know they're getting a whipping. You've got to walk around as a manager and literally see performances being done in a positive way, and then acknowledge that you saw it. They love it. They need it. It's a big deal to them that they have a happy, their boss is happy with them. So this idea of walking around, seeing them in action, and then taking a moment to appreciate their efforts is incredibly huge.
You bet.
And what some of the best dealers that are on this panel do is, Tully, you have it coming up on March 12th. You're going to be recognizing your Superstars Club. If you don't mind, take a moment and tell us about that recognition of appreciation that you'll be doing.
That's great. So we have it called the Superstar Club, and the Superstar Club is this. It says 3,000-hour technician, $1 million in gross writer, $1 million F&I gross, and a 200-unit car salesman. And we celebrate. They get jackets and trophies. We come up, we bring them up, we make them feel good. We have a great celebration. It is one of our best celebrations we do. They bring their families. We have a big, huge event. But here's the thing. We're telling them thank you in a great way.
Yeah. Love it. Love it.
Good stuff.
Joe?
Planning on being there. I'm planning on being there.
All right. There we go. That's going to be also the site of the next Fixed Ops Roundtable pop-up event with the Nilo Company. And, you know, this is the Centennial panel. You've got a lot of, 100-year dealers here, Joe. So
really impressive.
Look forward to having you with us. That's going to be a great panel. And by the way, in 2025, Tom, we'd love to come out to West Her and do the same thing there. And Robert Miggs over at Carter Myers and do a pop-up there. And Shon, it's going to be time to return up to Wisconsin in the summer and do another pop-up there.
The Packers don't play in the summer, Ted. Remember that.
Joe, how does our audience reach out to you and learn more? Because it's the beginning of the new year, time to start looking at personnel. How do I make contact?
Yeah, it's always a busy time of the year for us. No matter how many times we say, hey, start in December, start in November, get a jump on it. Everyone tries to hire at the same time, but all good. So I'm, all over social media. You can catch me on Facebook or on LinkedIn. You can go to our website, automaxrecruiting.com. My email's down there. My cell phone number's down there. Call me personally. There's no position too small. We do a lot of lot porter recruiting. We talked about porters here. It just kind of came around to it. It's an important role. So we do big or small. We do them all.
Great panel, great career path. Want to thank Don Andres, Michael Weldon, Robert Migliaccio, Tom Druzynski. Thank you. Tully Williams on the West Coast, Shon Kingrey, the one and only Marco Zwanenburg, and of course, Joe Lockhart from AutoMax for hosting the panel. And Joe, great job. And congratulations to you. And congratulations to the whole panel. And wish all a great and successful 2025.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Joe.
The AutoMax panel here
guys.
today, everybody,
Thanks,
at the Fixed
everybody.
Ops Roundtable.
At AutoMax Recruiting and Training, we've helped recruit, screen, and place over 180,000 retail automotive professionals in every department. Along with our robust in-person training programs, with AutoMax, you'll be pushing the hire button in no time. AutoMax Recruiting and Training. Any other retail automotive talent search is positively primitive.
BG Experience provides a window into today's vehicle systems, including the engine, brake, driveline, and cooling system. You will learn about how each system functions, the challenges they face, and BG Products' preventative maintenance solutions to these challenges. BG Experience is used by automotive trade schools and service centers to educate students, technicians, and service advisors. The ability to see how individual components of complex vehicle systems interact in motion provides a more visceral understanding than older training methods. We partner with over 50,000 shops and service centers around the globe. BG Experience is an essential tool to engage and educate automotive professionals worldwide.
This road trip is dynamite. Pop into our Dynatron panel filmed live at Bozard Ford Lincoln.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Ed Roberts, and we're here at Bozard Ford Lincoln. And Ted, who do we have here today?
Ed, first of all, very grateful to you for hosting us here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable at Bozard. We have Maureen Martin, our great friend from Dynatron Software with us, and we have Al Giombetti, one of the legends in our industry, from a long history with Ford Motor Company. Al and Maureen, welcome.
Thank you. Ted. Great to be here. Thanks.
Thank you.
You know, Al, so many things that tie into Ford and here, the history at Bozard, and there's a lot of things happening in our industry. And when you look back, okay, what are some of the changes that you're seeing now that are standing out in terms of fixed operations and the attention it's getting, and including profitability for dealers?
Well, I'm going to date myself, but when I first started out with Ford, I actually was a service rep. And the first thing you saw was a lot of space, a lot of bays, and people were talking about service, but they really didn't dedicate themselves to service. And then as time went on, the vehicles got more, we'll call it technologically advanced. The technology had to follow. The service business became more technician type business. I would say, like, even in the 90s when we start to do diagnostic changes, looking at the vehicle. So I would say the biggest thing that I've seen in my time is technology. When technology starts to leapfrog, we had to go with it. And I think that's where service becomes so important, not only to the dealership, but primarily to the customer, because they want their vehicles fixed right. They want it fixed right the first time. And I think that's just continued to evolve. And it's really evolved, I think, at Bozard, because I'm a customer of Bozard, where now you're even showing up at someone's house. So really about technology. I think technology is key, and it's going to be in our future, and it's with us forever.
Ed, what stands out to you?
Well, I think what Al said is that we had to find a time where we started focusing on taking care of our customers and the service that they need on their vehicles, because we had this thing called the aftermarket that was coming up like crazy back in the late 80s, early 90s, and they was out there just to capture our business. And we had to tighten the reins a bit and meet customers on their terms. And we are still trying to find new ways to meet customers on their terms. That's one of the things we do with mobile service. Is it's the Amazon service. It's service at your doorstep, and you've experienced that, Al.
Yes.
But it's once a customer experiences it, they don't go back. And it is offered outside of the manufacturer, but not very widespread. So it's our opportunity to really grasp and hang on to our customers, because they're our customers first. And when we don't take care of them, then they go elsewhere.
I think that's a key point, though. If a dealer, its management team, its leadership team is focused on the customer and they're focused on service, they will win. It is in, I'll call it the P&L, the profit and loss. If you handle your service business and your parts business, you will be a very successful dealership.
Absolutely.
That much I learned very quickly as a service rep, parts rep, sales rep, as I went through all the chairs at Ford. But I found those dealerships who dedicated themselves to service and the customers, they win. And I think you guys are really trying to do that every day.
Maureen, I want to get your perspective from Dynatron Software. You work with so many dealers all over this continent, okay? And you've put together an amazing product. What do you see from your perspective?
You know, it's interesting, if building on what you're talking about with technicians. I just had the privilege of doing a dealer roundtable, had a couple of our dealer partners from Hendrick and Hudson, and we were talking about technicians. Because if you really think about it, at the core of it, you've got your service advisors, building that confidence so that they know how to take care of that customer. But also at the same time, you've got to have the technicians to repair. And I found it really mind-blowing to me that right now across all segments, we're 1.2 million technicians short. And that's up from about 750,000 about 10, 15 years ago. And the average age of a technician is 52 years old, and 60% of high schools and colleges are dropping their auto tech program. So we've got to grow them from within. We have to give them the tools and the data to know how they're doing. And that also happens on the service advisor side. And so I think in order to get that perfect mix of profitability and superior customer retention, it's got to be an entire team effort, like you said.
Ed, talk to us. I love that phrase, growing from within, growing your own technicians. Speak to us a little bit about that.
Well, that's how we're wired. And yes, you're right. The industry the average age is in the 50s, and we're blessed that over 70% of ours are 30 or less.
Good.
32 or less. And it's because we grow our own. I've been in this industry I'm going to date myself as well. Coming up on 33 years.
I think I got you.
And I'm right in the middle, to be honest.
And there has not been a time where there hasn't been a shortage of technicians.
Right.
And we can talk about it or we can do something about it.
Absolutely.
And that's where we got to grow our own, because that's doing something about it. The automotive programs in high schools really creates the interest, but didn't put them where they needed to be. So we still need to grow them from there. But now we don't have anybody creating the interest either. So we have to go out and fill those gaps and further educate them to become who they can be. But when you do that, when you give someone a skill, you change their life forever.
Right.
You change the life of them and their family forever. And those are pretty cool elements to have in your hat.
And then when you think about it, we really got to get them all the way down in middle school. I had the privilege of helping to launch the robotics program in our middle school and getting kids to think about STEM and getting them to think before they even get to high school and then get to college. And so I think it's really important that, you do so much in the industry and in your community, and that's where it starts. It's all of our dealers across the whole U.S.
I think your point of the community is very important, because I spent some time, and I know Bozard does as well, with the Boys Club and Girls Club of St. Augustine. And everybody says, I want to go to college, but I can't afford to go to college. And my response is, I don't really think you have to go to college to make it in this world today. I said, because the world has changed quite a bit, again, since when I was a kid. And our vehicles are sophisticated. And they give a chance for some young person to develop a sophisticated career, because you're dealing with technology. And everybody wants to be part of technology today. And so I go to them and say, listen, back in the day, it used to be diesel technicians. Remember, we used to run out and try to find them, right? And people were paying more and more.
Yes.
It was kind of like the NFL, right? Everybody was making more money, which is great. That's America. But at the same time, look at all these opportunities. And I think that's where I'd be spending a lot of time is going and talk to these young people, bring them into these beautiful stores and say, hey, this is what you can do and make a great living doing it and have fun. And to me, that's where the rubber's going to hit the road, is we got to grab them when they're younger, make sure they understand it's a great career, and you don't have to always go to college to be successful.
When we were at Northwood and we were talking to the students, and I got a chance to sit with 10 young men that were, in high school. And one of the things they brought up to me that I thought was really interesting is getting parents to understand how amazing the automotive industry is. And what they think of as being a technician, as you said, is not. They're technology focused, that their computer programming, all of those things come into play. And I thought that was a really amazing insight from a very young group that we had.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Ed, I want to pivot, if I could, a little bit while we're here, about mobile service. We've got the remote services, we've got the mobile van here behind us. You're a leader here at Bozard Ford Lincoln. How has that evolved since you started the program here, and where do you see the future growth going?
Well, it started way back in 2015, long before we branded any vehicles, where we started going out and seeing fleets and introducing ourselves as a service provider to fleets, not asking to sell them a vehicle, but introducing ourselves as a service provider. Didn't matter what brand vehicle they had in their fleet, with the mission to convert them to Fords. And over time, that has certainly gained some traction. We have a huge commercial department now, and but it has evolved to where we're running nearly 50 trucks on the road now, But looking forward to it in the future, I don't think 50 is the number. I don't think 100 is the number. Maybe it's 200, maybe it's 300, because what we want to do is make mobile service the product. Right now, it's still the byproduct. Most of the time that you need service, you'll come in to the dealer. Maybe a third of the time will come to you. I want to get it to the point to where you might only come to service at the dealer one time during the ownership cycle. And if when we get to that point, whether it's 200 trucks, 250 trucks, who knows? But I think we will own the experience, the entire life cycle, the ownership experience for that customer.
When you're removing the friction points, right? I mean, you're making it all about the customer.
When you look at it through their lens, that's what they're asking for.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Love it.
And I'm a customer.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I had them come to my house because I didn't feel, well, first of all, my battery was dead. And they came to the house. 20 minutes later, they were gone. I paid them.
And you was back in business.
And I was driving.
Yes.
Well, and Al and I have the privilege to work together back at Ford Motor Company, and market rep was always a huge part of what we both had done in our careers. And to be in a facility like this is just incredible. So well done.
Well, thanks for the support, because we can't do this alone. It takes a team, it's a village, and we need support from the top all the way through, and we appreciate that.
Maureen, one last question for you.
Sure.
Dynatron Software, working with over 4,000 dealers in the United States, okay? What an amazing achievement. And it's just the last, 5 or 6 years,
Yeah.
okay? But you've really caught on to something, okay? And that's this need, this hunger for getting better in fixed operations. What are some of the things that you're seeing, whether it's on the recruiting side, technician side, as we talked earlier, or just the general support that retailers need today?
It's we have a lot of data, but data is only as good as it is actionable. And so we spend a lot of time working with our dealerships to help them, because often they don't even know that we're solving for a problem they don't know they have. And so working with that data and taking it and making it so that you can do what you do best, which is develop your people and really find that pinnacle point of not leaving anything on the table, but having superior retention. And when it comes to the technician side of it, we have Tech CF, which is something that allows you to coach your technicians on their goals. Like, where do they want to go? How do you help them to improve their efficiency and their productivity? And that's something that I think is so needed today, because they need to see a pathway, a career path. And that's what we're seeing most with our dealerships, is that they're really starting to put in not only recruitment, but that full career path, because we have to grow from within. So they're bringing people in that didn't even think about automotive, and you have to have that pathway, which I know you do here. And so those are some of the things that are really important. And your retention happens because one technician says to another, this is the best place to work.
Absolutely.
And when we do that, then we know that we're successful. So we want to make sure you have all the tools possible to be able to do that and spend your time with your people, because that's what makes it really work with customers.
And it's also a guide for our management staff that's out there that's trying to grow from within. They just don't know how to get started, and they need that guide as well. It isn't just for the people that are trying to grow. So it gives them the opportunity to say, okay, here's what I need to prepare for next. And that's what we need to continue to offer, is the guide to allow our management staffs to grow from within.
You have to.
Yes.
Al, this has to be refreshing for you to hear this conversation after all the work that Ford has put into developing and building these dealers. And you've got a rich history of Ford. Ed does as well. Al, it's all good news.
Well, first of all, this facility is awesome. You look at the Ford store, the Lincoln store, the restaurant. I know I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not. I know you bought some property, and so it's pretty good. And I'm kind of a local, so it's kind of it's great to see grow. I know where the original store was.
Yes.
And there's a gentleman named Don Sparkman who grew up around here, who from
Oh,
Ford.
for sure.
So we went and looked at it. We met with Fred, and we said, Fred, this place is going to boom. Matter of fact, we're looking at buying here. And so we need our Ford store to look really, really good. And you guys did a great job, and now you're just taking it to the next level. So to me, it's just a lot of fun. And, the automotive is just one of those businesses that you get to know people, and everybody, once you're in the club, you're in the club, and you enjoy it, and everybody knows where it wants to go. We just want to be successful. And I'm a very competitive person, so I love seeing Ford stores that look like this. because I want to go beat the other guys. So I won't mention it because I know you probably have to deal with them too.
That's what I always say.
I could tell.
Yeah.
But I know you have to deal with them as well. So we're okay.
Well, Al Giombetti, very honored to have you with us here today.
Thank you.
Bozard
The
Ford
honor is
Lincoln.
mine.
And Maureen Martin at Dynatron Software. Thank you for all you do for the industry and for fixed operations and the Fixed Ops Roundtable as well.
Thank you.
And all the great knowledge and people that you bring on the show.
It's a privilege to be here. I always love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ed, as always, greatly appreciative to you and the team here at Bozard.
Greatly appreciate you guys being here. This has been a fun ride.
Great. I'm Ted Ings. We're here with the team from Dynatron Software. We're at Bozard Ford Lincoln, and we will be right back.
Connect with the open road as we roll up to our next speaker, John Traver from Traver Connect.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. On our Route 66 road trip, we're taking a stop in Dallas to visit our good friend John Traver, the Chief Executive Officer of Traver Connect, a big part of the retail community. John, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Yes, sir, Ted. So good to be back. Happy New Year to you. 2025, buddy.
Yep, here we are. You and I met 30-some years ago, and look at all that's happening in the industry and all that you are involved with as well.
You've done an incredible job with the Ford. I know anybody that's part of this would agree. It's grown to a level that's just, I just didn't expect it to be this large, but it's become a learning event, a catalyst event. So thank you as well for leading. We're in business development, and our job continues to evolve too, and trying to line up with that stuff. So again, thank you for opening the door for so many.
Well, John, thank you. And the show is yours because I know a lot of folks are looking forward to this segment with you and your message. So take it away, John Traver.
Always a challenge, but you make it easy when you give us these incredible themes, you and the team behind the scenes. Route 66. I mean, I kind of got goosebumps just thinking about this message today. We're back at the fort. Of course, we think about that road trip with the old Route 66. And can you imagine how much fun it would be to be packed into a a van with these guys right here, you know, Ted and the fearsome foursome around him, Tully and Sarah and Shon and Ed. You've put a heck of a crew together around fixed ops and automotive, and we're just thankful to be able to contribute in any way that we can. So when you think about 2025, Ted, you're thinking about that next mile. You know, you think about a year and you think about the next leg of opportunity we're given, and you think about the road ahead. And of course, it's easy, my friend, to think about the scenery, and we think of all the good stuff, you know, and you know, when I think of road tripping, I think of getting up to the mountains myself. Here's a picture from this fall, my wife and I getting away on that western range in Wyoming.
Very nice.
Well, you know, any trip you take, you know, there's this ascent. And so I'm going to go ahead and use the mountains as our backdrop to get this thing started. And I'll use old Mount Everest and the famous climb of Mount Everest, just like we're climbing our way into 25, new heights, new challenges, new camps established. Ted, when you climb Mount Everest, you don't just start at the bottom and work your way to the top. You plan this thing out. It's Herculean. There's stages, just like building a business. There's stages. There's a base camp, camp 1, camp 2, 3, 4. And this happens over time. Building a business also works in this same way, whether we're our favorite football team and they're chasing that Lombardi trophy, Shon, Kingrey, God bless you. Or we're Ed Roberts or Tully, and we're trying to reach these new heights, these new pinnacles, if you will, or any of our stores out there that are thinking about what they're trying to accomplish in the year ahead. We think and we pursue the opportunity. But with opportunity, Ted, there are challenges, there are risks, there are problems. And it reminds me of a story off the Scilly Isles, kind of southwest of the UK, about 300 plus years ago. In the early 1700s, 1707, the British fleet set sail off the coast, and they worked their way down towards what was known as the Scilly Isles. They're still there today. And that entire fleet was led by none other than Admiral Cloudesley Chevelle, Ted. Cloudesley sporting quite the do, very similar to my old mullet, if you remember that picture.
Very similar. I was just going to point that out. Yes.
Yes. He and Ted Simmons, probably, anyway, we digress. But Cloudesley Chevelle knew there was danger in those waters as he headed out. Now, I love this story, Ted, because in the beginning of the year, we're all full of all kinds of energy and optimism, and we have these big goals, and we should. But we also know there's a dose of reality in terms of what lies in the way. Well, at this time, there was one challenge that Cloudesley knew he had to counter and deal with, and that was the measurement of where he was at on the water. See, you could navigate with what you saw, just like running a business and climbing our mountain this year in 2025, but there are certain things you couldn't measure. And for Cloudesley at this time, did you know, Ted, there was no way to measure longitude? At that time,
that's amazing. John, I'm taking copious notes on this. This is fascinating. Not just his locks. Okay.
Not just his locks. There's more. Longitude, you were not truly able to measure longitude. He knew this going out. That was a fatal error for Cloudesley Chevelle. Sadly, this was a fatal error. He knew this was going to be a problem. He knew he couldn't measure it. He knew he'd have to address it when he got on the water. But that day, 4 warships and over 2,000 lives, Ted, were lost. A real story, a true story, and you can look it up. Now, for those of you that are asking, John, where are you going? Where I'm going is wherever you're headed this year, there's going to be some obstacles. Number 2, how are you going to measure those obstacles? Number 3, under the theme of business development, what would I say might be the biggest rock that you should plan for? So before I get too far, let me just say longitude was his problem. And the way they measured it, they called it heaving the log. Ted, I know every once in a while you tease me about these stories, right? Well, here's your evidence, my friend. Heaving the log, a traditional way to measure speed at sea. They literally chunked a log and measured the time from one end of the boat to the other to measure the longitude. Crazy. Ted, that reminds me of business. We measure some things in crazy ways too, don't we? Retention of employees, engaged employees. I mean, we stick our finger, lick it, and put it in the air, and we call that a measurement. Very much like heaving a log.
Similar to that log in many ways, yes.
Very similar. So the longitude equivalent, I think, for today's message, the service profit chain written by Heskett, Sasser, and Schlesinger years ago. I love this book because it summarizes something nobody listening today would disagree with. In fact, everyone listening would agree with this. They would all say the same thing. They'd say, no matter what business we're in, no matter the business, including technology, at the end of the day, the only way to generate enduring profits that don't have a bunch of breaks in the action, Ted, is to build a work environment that attracts, that focuses, and that keeps talented employees. And so when I think of our space here, Ted, technicians, BDRs, business development reps, right? Advisors, parts counter. These are human people. These are human beings. These are the people that make this thing go. If you don't have consistency, if you don't have engagement, if you don't have focus from these teams this year, it's going to be a grind. And so there's nobody in January as we get started that would disagree with that. Would say, yeah. So the question then is, if Cloud Disley were sitting here on my shoulder, he'd say, hey, folks, how are you going to measure that? Don't make the mistake I made, right? So that's the question. How do we measure this engaged, focused, business development driven group of associates around us? So you start out with some basic things. Are you heaving the log, when it comes to retained and engaged? Or are you like some of these companies here that, they're measured amongst the best in the world, Thomson Reuters and Merck, and it's fun to see Mary Kay even in there, Korean Air. Some of these you may disagree with, but this is a 2024 study posted that I used. 20 companies employees don't want to leave. I would think that if employees don't want to leave your company, then they're engaged. And if they're engaged, they're focused. And if they're focused, they're probably the right person in the right seat. You're probably doing a lot of those things right. Business development will take and require this. World-class service organizations, Ted, real quick, let me hammer this home. There's a difference between an unengaged and an engaged organization. 9.5 to 1 versus, they say, 1.83 to 1. What's the difference? The difference is about 5x, Ted.
5 times.
About 5x. It's 10 to 2, rounded up, right? So you have, if you could set out this year, Ted, and grow the Fixed Ops Roundtable 5 times faster than you've ever grown it, and you're smiling because you're thinking, we're kind of doing that. We see that. But what about every organization in the Fixed Ops Roundtable that's participating? If they could grow 5 times, the way they're going to do that is with engaged associates. So you say, John, how do we do it? What I found, and I think you'll find this to be true, is you need to know something about your associates, your teammates, the people you're investing in. Number one, they go through 4 stages, Ted. There's 4 stages of an employee's journey, an associate's journey that you need to know about. And number 2, I'm going to call it the Gallup 12. There's 12 questions that you can measure their longitude, Ted, their longitude, to know exactly where they're at in the process. Let me show you. Okay. If we stick with the Route 66 theme, brother, yes, sir, and we think about this as a journey, and we say, okay, what's the base camp? Where do they start out? Every associate, when they join your dealership, your organization, this is the question they're asking. In camp 1, they're saying, what do I get? What do I get? What do I get? Inherently, that's what they're wondering. Number 2, the second thing they're wondering, phase 2, is what do I give? What do they want me to do? Third is once they've understood those couple, they're going to start assessing whether or not this is a good home. Do I belong here?
Yes.
And finally, the last thing, the summit, if you will, where you're really humming, is they go from what do I get? What do I give? Do I belong? We. How can we all grow? Ted, those are the 4 phases. Those are soft ways of measuring the longitude of your people. And you say, John, you need to do better than that. Give me more detail. Okay. All right. Ted said yes, and I'm assuming you're saying yes. There's 2 questions you got to ask in order to get to what do I get? I'm going to give them to you today. There's 4 questions that will get you to what do I give? There's 4 questions that'll answer, do I belong here?
Okay.
And there's 2 questions that'll answer, can we all grow? Those questions together, those 12, the Gallup 12, Ted, will define your exact longitude. If you want to grow at a multiple rate, 5x, you want to be asking these 12 questions this year as you set out. And you want to work your way towards green answers. Not yes and no, but you want to be towards the right side of the scale in the red, yellow, green theme.
John, by the way, if I can just insert a few words, what a great setup for this event. Wow. All the thought that's gone into this. I like this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Rolling. Yes, we got to define that.
You see it. You see it. This is so exciting to be able to look at 2025 and be able to navigate your way into the year meaningfully with your people. What are you going to accomplish by yourself?
Cloud Disley would be proud, by the way.
Those flowing locks would be glistening. So what are they asking in phase 1? They're asking 2 questions. When they get there, the first question is, everybody's got to be able to answer this yes. Ted, do I know what's expected of me at work? We use scorecards here at Traver Connect. And in the scorecard, there's 4 or 5 items. The job description thing is kind of DOA, dead on arrival. We use scorecards, not what you're capable of, but this is what we're measuring from you. This is what we need from you. This is what we need you to accomplish on a daily. Does that make sense? So they know clearly everybody's got to be able to answer yes to this. So you're going to need something like that. Number 2, do I have the equipment and materials, the tools, basically, Ted? I need to perform my work. If you ask any of our staff, the one thing you'll hear me ask them when I finish up talking to anybody anytime is, hey, Ted, by the way, do you got what you need? Do you need anything?
Mm-hmm. I hear that
constantly.
all the time. Yep.
Constantly. Why? Because I want you to know 2 things. I'm counting on you. We're counting on you. And number 2, you have a voice. If you need a shovel, if you need a hammer, I need to know so I can go get that. Whether that's software, it's a report, it's a desktop environment, it's an intro to somebody. I want to make sure you got what you need to accomplish number 1. So there's that. Let's keep on. By the way, this is a half-day workshop here at Traver in our learning and development series. So I'm giving you the real short version today. What do I give? Phase 2, what do I give? At work, they're asking this. You got to ask them this. Do I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day? It's possible you got people in roles that they're not really good at. It's possible you have BDRs making outbound calls that are not really comfortable doing that. You're going to want to figure this out. 2, in the last 7 days, have I received recognition or praise for doing good work? I love this question. I love sharing it with staff. Tomorrow I'll be with some of my staff here, and we'll talk about this. But I always tell them, I say, listen, if by chance the answer is not yes, can I ask you another question that's fair? And they'll smile. Then I'll say, was it relevant? Do you want to hear it if it's not true? Right? Of course you don't. You want to hear it when it's true. But do you recognize people when they do a nice job? Man, Ted, great job. Seriously, that really shines, right? Like that.
Thank you.
5 is, does my supervisor or someone at work seem to care about me? How does that happen? You listen, you ask, you check in. Is there someone at work who encourages my development? So these 4 will move along the multiple of what you give as an associate in any organization. This should be part of your questionnaire journey with your staff. Camp 3, do I belong here? So now they're going to take inventory, whether or not they're in the right camp, right? At work, do my opinions seem to count? We have meetings on a weekly basis here, and there are sometimes people that come with, an opinion that it's just not the right time for the opinion. But I hope and I pray there's never a time where they feel like that opinion didn't matter. We always circle up and say, interesting, haven't thought about it. Let's unpack that. So we want to make sure they're heard. Then we ask them some questions, say, do you realize this? Oh man. And usually they're the ones that'll say, you know what, that's probably not a good idea for right now. It's not a bad idea. You're right. I think the timing is not great, but thank you for bringing that. That's one of our ways of making sure they know, hey, we want your opinion, because here's the thing. Even if the idea doesn't work, Ted, you still want them thinking. It's their business too, right?
Yeah.
Does the mission, purpose of my company make me feel my job's important? Over the years, our mission evolves here at Traver Connect. Experience matters. That's our why. That's our mission. Who's it matter for? It matters for the consumer. That's theirs. Yours is our client. We're trying to take costs out of what they do, trying to improve processes, trying to develop tools. And then ours, we're going to need people that are in the right seat that understand how to do this. So experience is a difference maker for the consumer. How do we do that? Do you have a mission that's clear beyond profit, that's clear to your staff, that they're engaged with? Are my coworkers committed to doing quality work? I love this one, Ted, because it says, if I do poor work, then your bar also lowers. Yet you find there's point of defection or this point of, you know what, this is home, because work matters here. And the way John goes about it, there's the way I go about it, and we just press through. Isn't that good?
No, it's great.
Yeah. And then, do I have a best friend at work? I remember this 25 years ago when the Gallup 12 first came out. I had sold my company to ADP at that time, and this was part of the study. Very interesting. You won't always have a yes with this, and that's okay. But it's interesting because people really settle in. And if you start finding some yeses, you'll find yeses in these other categories. Okay, quickly, how can we all grow? That fourth stage. In the last 6 months, has someone talked to me about my progress? Now, if you have scorecards and you review those quarterly, Ted, guess what? This will always be a yes. And then 12, this last year, have I had opportunities at work to learn and grow? Ted, I want to talk to you a little bit about the role you're in. I want to make sure you're aware of this and this and this opportunity that's in front of you. Are you aware of those? Are any of those of interest to you? Things like this. Okay. So Ted, the Gallup 12, the Gallup 12, brother, these are difference makers. And what's so cool about it is I'm not just talking about a concept. I'm literally saying, go ask those 12 questions. Okay. And what you'll get is you'll get a more engaged, a more talented, a more service-focused set of personnel. And at the end of the day, really what you got, you're asking the Gallup 12, you get your definition of longitude. You'll know where you're at on the water. You'll know how close you are to the rocks. You'll know how realistic your 2025 plan is. And you'll know if you fix the answers to those questions with the people you got in the seats, you can chart whatever Route 66 course you want, my friend. Yes. And you will be surprised. Now, let me just close with this. Is this theory? Our friend Dan Shine had an article last year, Automotive News, where he said AAA names its best in repair winners. Ted, did you know there was a AAA best in repair winner award?
I did not know that, no.
Well, Ted, you can make another note then today. You now know, because here's your gold winners. Gene Messer Ford of Amarillo. Is Gene a follower of the Ford? If they're not, they should be. But you got your gold, your silver, your bronze for AAA, 7,000 facilities. Wow. So they're measuring world-class service. I guess my question here is, would they have to have a staff that's engaged, that's focused, attracting quality talent? I would think so. I would think so. Here's another one. Our buddy, Ed Roberts, never ceases to amaze me. This is from last fall, 2024, their Halloween party. Ted, is that you as R2D2 in the background there?
That's me, yeah. I was there.
Okay. You kind of, the eyebrows kind of threw it off. So, here's Jeremy kind of carrying the Mike Ditka look with Ed, right? He's got that Ditka look, that guy. Yeah, he sort of.
Well, you know why? Because he's down on the field. He has to have the look. Yeah.
I gotcha. He's got the whistle going, the whole
sideline.
Deal. Jeremy and I are going to have to talk. See if me and Shon can't sell him some cheese. I don't know. This is maybe like a Cloud Disley Chevelle knockoff here. Is this a Harry Potter vibe? Professor Lupine? I don't know. But my point is, here's the question. I wanted to have some fun with this. But Ed, I'm sincerely tip my cap to you and Hetty and the whole organization there, because people don't go this far to dress up when they're not engaged. Yeah. People don't end up with gold, silver, and bronze AAA awards when they're not engaged.
That's right.
These questions take you somewhere. So let me close with two thoughts. During the break, the Christmas break, I got a chance to unwind. I did a lot of writing, a lot of reading, but I watched the Enigma series with Aaron Rodgers. And I'm a Packer fan. Just stay with me on this one. I just want to tell you something. If you set out, you can learn something from this series. I'm going to try and hold my real comments, my personal comments, just teaching points here. Rodgers tells a story. This is after 2010. He wins the Super Bowl with the Green Bay Packers here in Dallas, Texas, AT&T Stadium, first year it opened, beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. God, Gower, bless your heart. He says after the win, and we kind of had sort of a week after party. It was not the best. Now it's about 1 a.m. We're on the bus. And he asked this question, Ted.
Yes.
He says, now what? Like, that's it?
Yeah.
Ted, why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because as you set your goals, as you achieve, if you put all your eggs in the basket of just the achievement and you miss the people, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss it. It's bigger than the event. Look, during the break, every year, Christmas, I never miss Jimmy Stewart and It's a Wonderful Life. Never miss it.
Donna Reed. Yep.
Yes. End of the movie. He's going to go to jail for something he didn't even do. $8,000 missing. Everybody in the town rallies around him, brings the money in. His brother says, George Bailey, the richest man in the world. His guardian angel, Clarence, reminds him when he makes the fateful decision to wish his life was never born. He says, look, man, every man touches so many other lives that when he isn't around, he leaves an awful hole, doesn't he? What I would tell you is this. What I just gave you today is work. And you're going to get some red. But I want to tell you something. Investing in others is never futile. It returns a profit that lasts forever. And it makes that Route 66 journey memorable, measurable, and wonderful. Ted, we're chasing business development. We're chasing the people that are part of it, and we're having some fun. Thanks so much for allowing us to make Experience Matters as we kick off 2025.
John, thank you for the longitude for this mission, for the Route 66. What a great history lesson. We learned a lot today, and we learned a lot about our organizations and the keys to providing them with the vision, okay, and to build a great team. And John, never cease to amaze me. You do fantastic work at Traver Connect. Everyone in the industry, John Traver is the father of the modern day Business Development Center, BDC. He has a company called Traver Connect, traverconnect.com. Easy to find on the web. You see his email scrolling. John is on social media and very active. And I highly recommend Fixed Ops family and our friends to John Traver and to handle all your business development needs. And John, congratulations to you on all the success you and the team are having.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you for the encouragement. And again, the team. Incredible people here that get it done every day. Let's have a great 2020.
Yep. The best in the business, everybody. John Traver with Traver Connect here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Creating solutions for automotive business development has somehow stuck with me throughout my 40-year automotive career, including today where Traver Connect's vision for creating business development results for your fixed operations, it continues to evolve. The one thing that has been constant perhaps is the change because of the industry, because of the customer, because of technology. Our mission though here at Traver, it's simple. In fact, it fits on a t-shirt. And the mission is 2 words: experience matters.
I've had the privilege of working alongside John Traver for over 3 decades. His original vision was creating both the BDC and BDM models for the industry, was one of his earliest works, and it actually made a cultural shift in how the industry did business for the next 30 plus years. Like many of you, I was introduced to Traver as a client, and was looking for that game changer to elevate my business. I learned over time that big wins didn't come from overcomplicated strategies. They're won on the front lines by consistently executing the basics. To accomplish that, you need the right people who have the time and are equipped to do the right things. What has changed, though, are the market conditions. Technology has evolved, customer interactions are more complex, and expectations have never been higher. Your customer experience today drives your revenue tomorrow. But with these changes come challenges. Catching every call, securing service business before it's lost, offering conveniences like pickup and delivery, or engaging AI to ensure the right conversations happen at the right time. Our experience matters. We're here to help our retailers pivot successfully, whether by doing it with them or doing it for them. The team we've assembled is obsessed with getting results, partnering with integrity, bringing a can-do attitude to make the customer, you, and our experience truly matter.
At Traver Connect, building solid and lasting relationships starts by making every customer interaction seamless. Our approach is simple. We focus on theirs, yours, and ours. Theirs, the customer experience. Yours, the dealership's success, and ours, the expertise we bring to make it all work. We transform everyday customer interactions into loyalty-building moments that create lasting relationships. It's not about doing more. It's about doing it consistently and cohesively. You decide what role you want us to play, big or small. We'll strengthen your connections and help shape the future of automotive service.
You might wonder, what are some of the common fixed ops BDC issues that we solve? Well, if you have less than 100% retention, 100% of your UIOs being retained, then we would play a role in due for service or due for first service, or an orphaned service customer. We can do the campaigns and we can make that happen, or we can duplicate that process at your store for your people to do. Special order parts, we don't want those sitting on the shelf. Recalls, incoming calls, the phones. So all we got to do is say the phones and we know. And that could be augmenting the team you already have or us doing it for you. We do both. And then education. We have an Experience Matters learning track available for dealers, and that's fixed ops directors, service managers, general managers, dealer principals. That's a wonderful, wonderful education forum on how to make experience matter at your dealership and all the tenets and points that go with driving it. And then we have a learning track separate for BDMs, and then we have a learning track for those new agents that are starting in stores. We do that remote, of course. So multiple ways that we are developing a learning track for Experience Matters. Today, we can support nearly any scheduling tool. We can poll, we can integrate to any dealership management system virtually, and we have created some of our own AI solutions that we use as middleware, supporting status calls and things like this. As margins have tightened throughout these tricky markets that we're navigating together, I believe having the right partnership to deliver essential business development results is the equivalent to having that play that grabs that next first down day after day after day for your dealership. So we'd love to learn more about your business development needs. Give us a call, please. Let's draw up your playbook together.
Strap in the car seat. Our next segment features the magnificent moms of Bozard, along with their little ones, filmed live at our pop-up event.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine. We are here at Bozard Ford Lincoln. Today we are kicking off the Women of Bozard panel specifically with the moms of Bozard Ford Lincoln. And we have some very special guests with us. Ladies, if you could go down the line, introduce yourselves and also introduce your little ones.
My name is Christina Fennick. This is my daughter Mila. She's 12 weeks old today.
Hey, Holly. I'm Anna Mercer. I'm due January 21st. Her name is Josie.
Go that way.
I am CJ Hirsch, and this is Sydney, and she is 7 months old.
I'm Taylor Cooper. This is Dawson, and he is 18 months.
Hi, I'm Crystal Garrison. This is Ezra, and he is a three-nager.
Well, ladies, it is incredible to have you all on this panel today, especially getting to share your perspectives as moms. And so, first off, Bozard Ford Lincoln, this is an incredible dealership. And so I just would love for each of y'all to share, how has Bozard really enabled you to balance the responsibilities of being a mother and then also in your personal career? Now, we'll just go right down the line again.
So I have had 2 kids since I've been here in 3 years. So they have family is always first. So that's main priority. A lot of the time you feel a little guilty when you're, have a career and you're a mom because your kids are sick or something like that. They never make you feel that way. Your family is priority. And it takes the pressure off of you as a mom to know that the well-being of the kids comes first, and it just makes you give your all to your career at the same time, to both being a mom and your career. So it's been amazing. Very, very blessed to be here.
Same thing. I mean, obviously, I'm still have some time left, but just how much support everyone's been, and just being around like all these kids and everyone, all the moms over the last few years, it's been great, and it's learning a lot, and we feel very supported. Yeah, just kind of to say this, I think for me, she's my first, and I'm very fortunate the position I'm in warranty. My job clearly that's at home. So when I was getting down to the end of my maternity leave, I was having a bit of a crisis because I was like, I don't think I can leave her. So they graciously let me start working from home. So I'm very, very, very thankful for that, because it was like very hard with it being your first and all, and being like, how am I supposed to leave this little person? And they've worked with me, and it's been wonderful.
Kind of the same thing. My department is very high driven, and we actually get to a point that we lose track of time. So they always make sure that family first, and being a mom is always first.
Yeah, I ditto. I mean, we support each other. It's balanced. Sometimes Bozard requires more of me, and my family picks up the slack, and sometimes my family requires more of me, and Bozard picks up the slack. Like it is truly just balance.
Well, Kristen, I'll come back to you and go down the line again. But, one of the most impressive things that I've seen since being at Bozard Ford Lincoln, there's so many policies and different pieces in effect that really just help the employees. Has there been any specific ones that really stand out to you as an employee of Bozard that have enabled you to be a parent and, enabled you to have an amazing career here too?
So this is my second child, and with my first, I asked Mr. Bozard, kind of joking, but kind of not, if he'd build me a daycare, and then he did. And so I felt obligated to have another child. I'm kidding, that was not the deciding factor, but it did play a part in it and how we got wonderful Ezra here. But the daycare is super helpful because with my first child, can you please sit down? Can you please sit down? Okay, let's turn around. I can't talk while you're kissing me. Thank you. So it was really hard to leave my first child because there's a lot of things that go into motherhood, and you're scared to leave your child with strangers. So it was really nice to kind of know the people a little bit, and then I can pop in whenever I wanted. So that really helps me, especially with the second one.
Get down.
I need you to sit down, please. Come on, climb back up. So then it really helps me knowing that he was so close. I could run over if I needed to. I could go drop off milk if I needed to. So having all of those little perks. And sometimes I would just go sit in there on my lunch break and, get the cuddles and get the just some sanity, sitting with all the babies in there. So it was really special. I'm really grateful for that.
Taylor, how has it impacted you, and what policies or what processes have really helped you here?
To be honest with you, it's been absolutely amazing. For the fact of, just like Crystal said, having your children over at the bird's nest, it's been absolutely the best thing ever, because having them so close to you while you're at work, just like lunch break, if you need a break, you get to go over there and enjoy one another.
And ladies, one of the other pieces that a lot of moms are listening, and as we can see on this panel, you have a lot of moms on this panel. But when we're thinking about all of the different advice, there's a lot of times in dealerships across the industry where it's hard for a mom to really, have a fulfilling career, and there's barriers, and there's, maybe some challenges in being a parent and a successful professional. What advice would you give moms that are looking at this panel today and see an incredible place like Bozard Ford Lincoln? What advice would you give to moms in terms of what they should seek out in their next professional
Move
career?
to St. Augustine. You can start working here. No, we have positions. We do. It's hard to say because I almost feel like Taylor and Crystal were saying, we're really, really, really lucky. Coming back to work as a mom is frightening. Like CJ said, you're leaving this little human that you've made. They're really young still. They really depend on you. I'm the only one who can get her to go to sleep at this point, this one. So coming back to work is really scary, and having the organization back you up as a mom and say, whatever you need, we're here to support you. If you need to, work from home part-time, build the daycare for Crystal, to all of our benefit. But my first daughter was over there too. I went every day on lunch break, so I never felt like I was missing out on her, where you're gone for hours and hours out of the day. I don't know. It's hard to say because I just feel like I'm super, super lucky. As to be a first-time mom and have my kids at the Bird's Nest right here on the property, I drive to work with them every day. We sing the Moana soundtrack. I see them all day at lunch. We go home together. It's just such a blessing, and I'm so grateful.
Yeah. Well, and I know doctor's appointments, all of the OB pieces, getting ready to have a baby. What advice would you give to moms that are expecting in a dealership environment?
Well, it definitely helps that Bozard's just so family oriented and everything, because obviously you're out unexpectedly sometimes, you have doctor's appointments. My husband also works here, so both of us go. So that's two people that are leaving, I had some time where I've had to take off unexpectedly. My husband's been able to come home with me, take care of me and stuff like that. But we've always felt so supported and not guilty or felt like, people are mad at us or, our management. Everyone's very supportive, my team, everyone. So, and it's hard to find that, but I think the culture here really cultivates that. And so we're very lucky. Yeah, it's really just finding somewhere that cares about you and that cares about your family. It's a whole village, and Bozard is part of my village. We ask each other for advice. I mean, there are times I text Christina and say, hey, I'm dealing with this, or vice versa, and we just take care of each other and support each other. So if your job doesn't do that, then you need to find another job.
What other pieces are we missing in this whole? I mean, the Bird's Nest is incredible. If you haven't seen it, it's a daycare and childcare facility here at Bozard Ford Lincoln. So, I mean, it's just right across the parking lot for these moms to go and see their kids. But, what other pieces do maybe people not know about Bozard that you would like to share with our audience today?
So we'll talk about it, I think, in another segment, but we're big on teams. So everything here is a team. Advisors are teams, valets are teams, the comm center's teams, the quick lane's a team, techs are teams. So if I have to jet, I call Anna, hey, I need you to handle something for me. I got to go. If Anna's had to be out. She's had some things going on recently. And so she has her teammates that she leans on, and they take care of whatever needs to be taken care of. That's really nice, not being feeling like you're on an island, and if you're not there, that your stuff's not handled. If I'm not here, Anna will handle whatever needs to be handled. John, Chris, any of my teammates will handle what needs to be handled, and the customers get taken care of.
Anna, you specifically, what pieces would you suggest to anybody listening today about Bozard Ford Lincoln?
I mean, just like we have all said before, there's just so much support everywhere. Everyone, I think everyone's on the same page. You just don't really. It's a very unique environment. And this is the only village I've ever worked at, so I don't know how it is other places, but I've been very, very blessed.
Any other pieces of advice?
I'm like her. This is the only dealership I've worked at, but I have heard other dealerships are very different with how they run things. So I feel like we are very fortunate, but I hope that the industry is using us to work towards to model themselves after it, because it is it's really great having all the women around and all the moms, because when you are expecting and then you're residents, you have people who are supporting you because they've been through it, and then like with the teamwork and stuff, they're very good about like, because in warranty, we can have some late nights and everything like that, but they've been really working hard to get the pressure off of us with that and like adding to our team and just making sure that people aren't really taking advantage of us with like situations and stuff. So they're just really concerned about the employees and making sure that your work lasts out is good.
Well, everybody, you are seeing, this is real life right here at Bozard Ford Lincoln. This is my life. And these women are just such a testament to what moms and parents in the dealership environment, I mean, this is the reality of having your home life and your professional life. So ladies, thank you so much for being on this panel today. Here with us at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. We'll be right back. We have some new segments coming up next. Y'all did great. Can we get that and grab Dawson's? Sorry. Thank you.
Just looking at pictures of baby Bo. Check out my jacket right here. Check out that baby right there. The windbreaker. Here's the one of you and Pop with your pixie cut.
In 1949, Fred H. Bozard Jr. and his wife set off on a remarkable journey, one that would shape the history of their family and their surrounding community forever. The Bozard Ford Company was established just off of US 1 in the quaint little town of St. Augustine, Florida. At that time, the population was just 14,000 residents. Little could they have known that this little community would soon evolve into the thriving St. Johns County we know today, now teeming with over 300,000 people.
It was the frontage. They had cars and stuff, a small little lobby that you would walk in, and then the service department was connected to the side of it. So it was small. It was very small.
Well, everything was smaller than you could walk an elephant downtown St. Augustine. It was so small.
Taking the reins in the late 70s, Fred Bozard III assumed the responsibility of carrying on the family legacy, unaware that his small store and staff of less than 40 people would eventually support over 300 team members and their families.
The nice thing about Dad is, although he was extraordinarily intelligent, I think he led a good team, for the size store that we were back then.
I think that's been a lesson for us too along the way that we've, tried to carry on, is the willingness and openness to surround yourself with people who, quite frankly, might be smarter than you, might be more experienced, more knowledgeable.
I want them all smarter
all of
than me.
that.
I want them all smarter than me.
In the early 2000s, Fred received the devastating news of a cancer diagnosis. It was during this challenging time that a relative named Mike Shad stepped in. As he cared for the family business, his goals were clear: enhance the facility, steer them through the Great Recession, and protect the cherished family business until Fred's children, Letty and Bo, were ready to take the reins. Little did he know that their journey would not merely be one of survival, but of remarkable triumph, as they emerged as one of the highest performing dealerships in the entire nation.
So if Dad was, kind of the first step into just surrounding yourself with folks that are smarter, Mike was the first step into creating a culture that allowed people to grow, right? Instead of just bringing them in at already smart or already experienced. Mike was someone that if you were younger in the car business, or you had some vision and you loved this business, he created cultures in all of his stores that you could come in at whatever place, technician, sales associate, service advisor, sales manager, service manager, and you could have some empowerment.
Throughout their 73 years in business, the Bozards have encountered countless unknowns and unforeseen events. Yet amidst the uncertainties, certain truths have remained steadfast since the very beginning. As Fred III understood well, this community was truly unlike any other. a place where even in the face of enormous growth, people still enjoyed that hometown feel.
You know, I think it's so interesting how everything we do, you know, really with our team was born out of something that was special to us, right? That was born out of something that was smaller, and we grew up, but we kind of never let go of that core reason. We're in bigger buildings now. We have different food at the Christmas party or whatever, but it still feels like, to me, that same family function that was 25 people, you know, in our garage, you know, back in the 80s.
Since 1949, Bozard Ford Lincoln has stood as a beacon of commitment to family, unwavering core values, and a vibrant community. Today, we invite you to join us in shaping the future chapters of this extraordinary tale, the remarkable story of Bozard Ford Lincoln. Together, we look to forge an even stronger legacy, one that lasts for generations to come.